lucky us. No, that's fine. Give me 30 seconds if you can, so I can grab ownership. Actually, it probably won't matter.
Feels so weird with the day off yesterday. Like I just feel like lost.
I have no idea what day it actually is any longer.
Doing the show on Saturday is really going to throw me off.
Boom, 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 boom.
Probably oversleep the NFL show and forget it Sunday.
I would give anything to oversleep the NFL show tomorrow. All depends how this slate goes. If it goes really poorly, I'll be too drunk. If it goes really, really well, I'll also be too drunk.
Right.
Break even day, I'll be just like, okay, I ate too many cookies. I'm ready. And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Strategy Show Christmas Day edition. Happy holidays, everybody. Glad that you guys can be here. I am Josh Engleman. I am joined by Adam Scherer. We're going to do our best to break down today's 5-game slate with news coming in what seems like every 5 minutes for the past 15 hours for this particular slate. We've had 3 separate Atlanta centers that I thought were going to be really good options today. I don't know how that's going to change, but I'm assuming we're going to end up getting a 4th somehow. Before we do anything, today's the most important one. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live, and give a little bit of a shout out to PrizePicks, the presenting sponsor of this show. Adam, Merry Christmas. How are you?
I'm good. Merry Christmas. Excited to be. I love Christmas, the Christmas Day slate. So even though it's going to be probably even more of a shit show today than normal, excited for it.
Yeah, normally it's just like, oh man, it's tough to make lineups. There's like an 8-hour spread between the games. Now it's just like, oh, it's tough to make lineups because there might be 8 guys out by the time we get to the late game tonight. And that's
exactly.
Not even like a joke.
Already talking to you before the show. It was like, oh, what do you do with Boston? And then it's like, oh, well, it's the second game, so we'll get that information. Wait, no, we won't, because it's still 2 hours after the first game. Yeah,
this is going to be quite the journey. Stick around here. After we are done our show, we still have 90 more minutes of NBA Live before lock. They're going to go 60 plus an extra half hour for PrizePicks. So get excited, everybody. Plenty of NBA content. But today, honestly, I got to say it again. Today's the day where everybody should be hitting the like button. It doesn't cost you guys a thing. It's fun to see that number go up higher. We got 550 people in here, only 130. Let's run it up as high as we can go today. See if we can break some records for this Christmas Day. Adam, are you ready to get this one started?
Yep.
Ready as we're ever going to be, I guess,
exactly.
Right? All right, we're kicking it off. Atlanta Hawks at the New York Knicks. I'm still moving some of these windows around here because the amount of news that we've gotten for the Hawks over the past 2 days has been very interesting. Originally, I thought Onyeka Okongwu was going to be just absolute chalk smash, cheap center, amazing play for 32 minutes. He goes out for COVID, and then it's like, okay, well, I guess we're going to just go to a ton of Gorgie Jang. Well, now Clint Capella's back. So Trae Young out, Kevin Huerter out, who I honestly thought was going to be playing today. DeAndre Hunter, we knew was out. Gallo out, Okongwu out, Lou Will out, TLC out, Owundu out, Sharif Cooper out. We've got Cam Reddish in, DeLon Wright in, and now Clint Capella is back. We got a ton of ownership coming to Atlanta. Reddish, Wright, Collins, Bogdanovich, Skylar Mays, Gorgie Jang, all looking good. We're going to probably need an ownership refresh on that Gorgie Jang ownership, but who is the best play on Atlanta for you today?
Wasn't expecting that question.
I mean, you can go with a different answer or answer just like whatever question you would like it to be if that will help you.
Probably Collins.
Okay, I agree. Just from like this guy's just going to be out there perspective, $7,800 power forward center Collins just makes me feel safe. I certainly don't feel safe about Skylar Mays or Gorgie Jang. Let's talk about the Jang and Capella relationship for now, because I think that's a pretty important jumping off piece. Clint Capella is 8,300 on FanDuel, 7,900 on DraftKings. Can we be getting to him today?
I think it's risky, but if he's not going to get much ownership, then I'm interested, because I think the playing time here is really volatile. He only missed 2 games. He last played on December 17th, so it's not like you had a really long layoff. and you have Okongwu out. Like last game, you got mid-30s in minutes from Okongwu. You got Jang playing the backup center minutes. I don't think there's any reason you can't get a rotation or minutes like that for Capella, assuming that he's fine. It's not like he missed a bunch of time. He's been playing 33, 34 minutes in plenty of games this year. So I think you could get that, but there is always the risk that he is limited for whatever reason and that he plays less. But assuming the ownership's not going to be that high, I am definitely interested in him because I think that there's a chance you see a lot of minutes. Like basically the way I'm looking at it is if Capella had not gotten COVID and been on the COVID list, like if he just hadn't missed these games, with Okongwu out in this situation, you would be projecting, and the Hawks so shorthanded on the wings, you'd be projecting Capella for a ton of minutes because it makes it less likely that they play small at center because they need Collins to play more at the 4. So I think that there's certainly a path to Capella playing a lot more than people are projecting.
Yeah, I bumped him up too. I got him back into 30 right now, splitting with Gorgie Jang. We just got an ownership run 2 minutes ago, just in case you haven't hit refresh yet. So that took that ownership away from Gorgie Jang. Still Reddish, 40% across both sites. DeLon Wright, low 30s across both sites. Let's talk about the other value piece here. Flat minimum on FanDuel, 3,500. He's 3,400 on DraftKings, projected for about 25% ownership. What in the world do we do with Skylar Mays today?
I'm curious to see what the starting lineup is. If Mays starts at 3,400, he's still really risky. I mean, you saw 2 games ago that he barely played as a starter. Then last game, he played a ton of minutes. You don't have Wes Iwundu. You don't have Sharif Cooper. So there's not as many bodies behind him today as there were in that first game where he didn't play a lot. But at the same time, Bogdan Bogdanovic played 28 minutes last game. I think there's a chance that you see Bogdanovic either slide into the starting lineup right away, or like you had mentioned to me before the show, maybe Bogdanovic only starts the second half. But either way, I'm expecting that you're getting 30-ish minutes from Bogdanovic. Lance Stevenson only played 11 minutes last game, so that's someone that potentially could take minutes from Skylar Mays. So I think Mays is really risky. Like if he starts, there's clearly a path to 30-plus minutes, but he's also not a good fantasy producer. So a lot of it's going to come down to what the ownership on him looks like. Right now, we have him at 26% on DraftKings. Kind of seems like a spot where I would be inclined to not get that much of him because you can have him play a bunch of minutes and suck. That's certainly possible. You can have him play a lot less minutes than people are expecting. And then also, it's 5 island games today. This is the first one. We're probably going to get a bunch of news throughout the day. So like locking in Skylar Mays in a bunch of lineups at noon when you're going to get a bunch more information later doesn't really seem like a spot I want to get to if he's getting a lot of ownership.
Yeah, we got some questions from Frank Costa and Rob in chat. Why would they start Mays over Bogdanovic? Adam and I actually talked about this a little bit before the show. They have so little creation on this team right now that it might be a little bit easier to start Mays so that Bogdanovic can handle all of the time that DeLon Wright is off the floor as the primary ball handler, and then, potentially start the second half, certainly close. But it's just a little easier to stagger those guys. Otherwise, their second unit is just going to be 5 guys that can't create their own shot. And I don't think you want to put the ball in Lance Stevenson's hands all that frequently.
Yeah. And I see we're already doing the Skylar Mays is better than average if given the chance. Better than an average college player? Sure. He's not better than an average NBA player if given the chance.
No, he is not. If he were, he would be in the rotation for the Hawks already and not a replacement type dude. That's not how that works. All right. Do we have anything that we really want to talk about for Cam Reddish or DeLon Wright other than just play them and they're some of the best plays on the day?
Yeah, I mean, that's how I see it. They were both injured last game, and so they left early, but they're both probable to play today. You got 28 minutes from Reddish in 3 quarters last game. He had played 42 the game before. He was likely to give you 38 or so last game. DeLon Wright was at 34 minutes with like 6 minutes to go in the game. He's likely to give you another 38 minutes or so. So Reddish is the better fantasy producer of the two, but both of them are likely to play a lot of minutes.
All righty. We touched on Reddish, Wright, Collins. Bogdanovic is 6K on FanDuel, which is perfectly fine for right now. 4,700 point guard, shooting guard eligible. Is he sneaky amazing right now?
Who was that?
Bogdanovic, 4,700
on
DraftKings.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's really interesting because he played 28 minutes last game, and I think you could certainly see him play more here. But he's greater than a fantasy point per minute guy without Trae Young on the floor. So he is someone that, even going back to his Kings days, like he's never really that assertive offensively when he's out there with like another ball dominant guy. But whenever he gets minutes, like back with the Kings when, De'Aaron Fox was out, now, without Trae Young, whenever he gets minutes where he can just go be the guy offensively, he has the skill set to do it. He can make plays, he can shoot, he can score. So I think he looks really good at that price tag, knowing that he played 28 minutes last game. So far this year, 67 minutes without Young, he's at 0.97 DraftKings points per minute. Since the start of last season, without Trae Young on the floor, he's at 1.03 DraftKings points per minute. So I think he does look very good at 4,700.
Are you going to get to Gorgie Dieng?
No.
That was a quicker no than I was expecting.
Well, because in my mind, I'm thinking Capella plays 32 or 33. So I don't feel confident in him, but at the same time, kind of like I was saying, there's a chance Capella plays more minutes than people are expecting. There's a chance he plays less than I'm expecting, in which case, you get 20 for Dieng and he looks okay.
Well, it's not even just that. The risky piece is that Gorgie Dieng doesn't have to do it, and they just play more minutes of John Collins at the 5 too. They don't exactly have the bodies for that, but if Jalen Johnson needs to play like 4 extra minutes and they don't go to Gorgie Dieng, that's also possible too. They don't have to split Capella and Dieng. That's why I'm less interested in Dieng. They have a third option.
Yeah. And also, to be fair, the same person in chat that had said the thing about Skylar Mays said he meant from a fantasy standpoint, which that's fine. He's actually been a little bit better than I had thought from a fantasy standpoint. 0.92 DraftKings points per minute without Young since last year. So that's fine, as long as we're not talking about Skylar Mays, the basketball player.
Yeah. Anything else you want to touch on from Atlanta?
I don't think so. It's a team, and this is going to be, I think, the case for a lot of teams today, and really it's been the case for the last week or so, but keep in mind that there's just more volatility in general than there normally is in the NBA right now. So ownership becomes even a little bit more prevalent than it normally is, because normally in the NBA, you're talking about, it's very easy to project the minutes and all of that, and it's just a matter of, how do guys shoot. With a lot of these teams, and Atlanta certainly one of them, it's not that easy to project the minutes either. We're all just kind of making educated guesses here. We don't have weeks worth of the Hawks running this rotation for us to know exactly what it's going to look like. So just pay attention to ownership. If Capella is really low, he becomes a fantastic tournament play. If Gorgie Dieng is really low and Capella's high, Dieng becomes interesting. So just a lot of moving pieces here that we don't really know a whole lot about.
On to the New York Knicks, where we're getting some bodies back, and that is going to create a slightly different rotation than we had previously. Looking like Alec Burks is going to be coming off the bench. Kemba Walker now likely the starter at point guard. RJ Barrett is in. Daniel House is in. Kevin Knox is in, or probable. Whether he's playing or not is a completely different discussion. We know Derrick Rose is out for a while. No Nerlens Noel here. Let's just start with it. Because
did you say Kevin Knox is in?
Yeah.
He's out on injury report.
He got ruled as probable a little bit ago. You sure?
No, he's 9:30 injury. I saw the 8:30 in front of
me. Okay, yeah. I was like, I'm pretty sure. Don't know if it matters given how many bodies they have back now, but good distinction nonetheless. So Kemba Walker is the only guy pulling any significant ownership on the DraftKings side of this Knicks team, 28% at 6,100. I think that makes sense if he is now the starting point guard for the Knicks. Randall and Alec Burks are both projected for a bunch of ownership on FanDuel. Let's have a conversation point on Alec Burks in a second because of that. $7,400 Burks not starting on DraftKings makes the decision really easy. We're just going straight back to Kemba, correct?
Yeah, I think so. There's more downside risk on him now than there was in these previous games, because you do have Barrett back. You do, potentially have Knox playing some minutes. They have Daniel House available. So there's no guarantee he plays 40 plus minutes again. But even at 6,100 on DraftKings, even if you give him like 34 minutes, he looks like a good play. And there's obviously the path to him playing more, especially if he's playing well. So Kemba still looks good here. On DraftKings, he's the only guy on the Knicks that I think is particularly favorably priced.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page there. Nobody really stands out all that much from the Knicks. Like $4,800 Mitchell Robinson is interesting in that when Nerlens Noel is out, he can play more minutes. I don't know if he gets that many, considering he generally gasses out after 4 to 5 minute stretches. So there seems to be an upper bounds just on his cardio. We've got Taj backing him up, 3,600 power forward center. I feel like that's sort of getting slept on a little bit. People are probably looking at Jericho Sims playing a ton of minutes that last game when in all actuality, Taj got the gate and they didn't really have much of a choice at that point in time. Is $3,600 power forward center Taj Gibson like a little interesting today?
A little
Probably
bit,
not
yeah.
because it's the first game of the day.
Yeah, I mean, that's the issue is, again, you're sort of, how many lineups do you really want to be using a roster spot on Taj Gibson when you're going to get better stuff opening up later in the day? But it is interesting if you just look at it sort of by itself and don't think about the late swap aspect, because I expect that on average, you're going to get like 26 minutes from Robinson, 22 from Gibson, somewhere in there. But any game where Robinson plays poorly, gets in foul trouble, whatever, Gibson's likely to play more. He's not a great fantasy producer, but he does have power forward eligibility, and he's not going to pick up much ownership. So it's somewhat interesting at, basically 1% ownership. It's just also a pretty low probability play.
Alec Burks, we've got projected for 24% ownership on FanDuel right now. 5,600 shooting guard, small forward. Is that an okay play still at 5,600? I mean, I'm still guessing that he's playing a ton of minutes today, just not the same sort of starter run that we had been seeing. What are you expecting for Burks from a minutes perspective?
I still think he plays mid-30s. I think that there's a good chance he closes over Fournier.
Okay.
And you get like a Kemba, Burks, Barrett, or closes over Barrett. I don't know exactly what Barrett's playing time is going to look like. But I think that Burks basically, I still think he gets his minutes, assuming he's playing reasonably well. I don't think you can really get to him on DraftKings outside of, tournament dart throws. But where he's cheaper, I think he does still make sense. I think, based on what we've seen earlier in the season, that he's certainly capable of minutes away from Fournier in closing.
I think you're going to agree with me on this one. This is just very obvious. Evan Fournier is 5,600 shooting guard, small forward. Alec Burks is 5,600 shooting guard, small forward. RJ Barrett is 5,800 shooting guard, small forward. Fournier, 8% owned. Barrett, 6% owned. Burks, 24% owned. You're just never playing Burks in that scenario in GPPs.
Give me the other two.
Yep. Yeah. That's where it gets kind of tricky. Like if that's the case, I think Alec Burks is actively a bad play in GPPs.
If you told me that they were all the same ownership, Burks is the one that I would want.
Yeah.
But like if you're going to give me 3-1 or 4-1 odds on you knowing for sure that Burks is going to play more minutes than those guys, then I'll go ahead and take my chances.
Yeah, that stands out so immediately. I have like all three guys are next to each other. They're basically all the same fantasy performer. They're like 0.85 to 0.9 guys, generally speaking. If any one of those guys is pulling more ownership than the other, just pick a different one. I don't have much else for the Knicks.
Why are people saying Barrett's going to cut into Kemba's production? Like the argument is that there's more bodies and Kemba can lose minutes. Replacing Burks with Barrett isn't really messing with Kemba, I don't think.
And again, like, did Kemba get yanked and sat? Yeah. He wasn't really the problem from the beginning of this. He just wasn't really the solution either. Yeah, I've got Kemba in for 34 minutes. If he played 38, I'd believe it too.
Yeah, that's where I'm at also.
Yeah, I'm not worried about Barrett cutting into anything. All righty. Well, let's talk a little bit about the schedule for the rest of the day, because we do have a ton of content, even on Christmas Day. Like I said, NBA Live Before Lock coming up at 11 a.m. We've got the NFL Deeper Dive at 2:30, and then NFL Live Before Lock at 3:30. So you're getting 2 straight hours of NFL content in the middle of the afternoon. And then we still have NFL Showdown Live Before Lock coming up at 7:30. So 4 more shows today. We're talking 4.5 hours more of content, ignoring just this half hour. We've got NBA projections free for today. We've got NFL ownership projections also free for today. Can't beat that. 1,500 people in here, 350 likes. We are going to be up to 500 in no time if you guys just hit that thumbs up. All right. I don't really know what to do here, Adam. Maybe you quickly just got ruled out. So we can stop that one. RJ Barrett, game time decision. That's
Kevin Knox ruled out.
Oh no, Kevin Knox. Yeah, so even doing one game, we already have changes. That's always fun. I don't know what to say for Boston right now. I don't even know if we could really do this service here. So questionable tags on Marcus Smart, Al Horford, Romeo Langford, Juancho Hernan-Gomez, Jabari Parker, and Broderick Thomas. We have Jay Rich, Grant Williams, Aaron Nesmith, Enos Freedom, Bruno Fernando, Justin Jackson, Sam Hauser, and CJ Miles all out. Apparently, Boston signed Al-Farouq Aminu and Norvel Pell, but the Aminu piece is kind of interesting. Not that he's good for fantasy.
He's another one. You could tell me Aminu is 28 and you could tell me he's 42, and I would be fine with both of those.
Al-Farouq Aminu is 31 years old.
Yeah, he's in that Lance Stevenson category where, like, I just have no idea how old he is because it feels like I've been watching him since, like, I was 8.
Jason Gunn, Alec Burks is no longer the starting point guard of the Knicks, so you're going to need to start from a different spot. RJ Barrett will start if he plays. Those are always the fun ones.
If RJ starts, it's likely Kemba comes off the bench. The Knicks already said Kemba's starting and Burks is going to the bench.
Yes, they did. All right, so let's start with Tatum and Brown because those two guys are in no matter what. Jaylen Brown, 9,400 on DraftKings, 7,800 on FanDuel. I like Jaylen Brown a lot on FanDuel for that price tag. Tatum, 9,500 on FanDuel, 10,400 on DK. How are you feeling about the two studs on Boston?
If you can get to them, great. But on DraftKings, they are pretty expensive. I'm with you. Jaylen Brown looks very good on FanDuel. 9,400 still gives you a ceiling, but much more difficult to get to. The playing time has ramped up, so I don't think there's any reason to be concerned there. It's just a matter of, you're paying for his ceiling more than his median projection, but as a result, you're also getting 3% ownership on Jaylen Brown. So, and he has guard forward eligibility. So I think a pretty decent tournament option, but nothing I'm prioritizing.
Okay. Yeah. FanDuel, very different story. 9,500 for Tatum, 7,800 for Brown. Both guys pulling about 25% ownership. I think that all makes sense. We need to talk about the chalk play here. And so much of this comes down to whether or not Al Horford plays, but 5,600 on FanDuel for Robert Williams, 5,800 on DraftKings. We got him at 20% owned on DK, 40% owned on FanDuel. I will not have that much Robert Williams if Al Horford is playing in this one.
Yeah, same here. The minutes should still be there. I think you still get around 30 minutes or so from Williams and his freedom out, but the production goes down alongside Horford. That's been the case all season long. So definitely my interest level in Williams hinges a lot on Al Horford's status.
Yeah. If Horford is in, I'm going to take my chances elsewhere with the 40% owned Robert Williams. If Horford is in, 7K on FanDuel, 7,100 on DraftKings, I don't think he's all that interesting. Marcus Smart is close to 6K or 6K, depending on which site we're talking about. Not super interesting to me. And maybe a little bit just given the ownership, but I think that's going to come up too from the Q tag. Is there anything that you see from Boston that we actually can talk about right now?
Not a whole lot. I mean, it's so dependent on who plays. If Marcus Smart's in at 6K, he seems reasonable. Jason Gunn's still trying to argue that Alec Burks is the starting point guard. He can enjoy that. But yeah, it's kind of like if Smart's out, Schroeder looks better. He probably plays more minutes. If Smart's in, I think Smart looks pretty good. If Horford's out, Williams looks better. If Horford's in, they both kind of look mediocre. Williams would still be the one I get to first, but it's a pretty tough team to have a whole lot to say about right now.
All right, well, let's move it over to Milwaukee then. This one's a little bit easier. We've got Giannis Antetokounmpo back, but we don't really know the status of a couple other pieces. We also know that Dante DiVincenzo will be making his his season debut today. No Brook Lopez as usual. Bobby Portis is still questionable, which is a very big piece, as weird as it sounds. What do we do with Giannis to start, though? 10-8 on FanDuel, 11-4 on DraftKings.
He looks good. I mean, he always looks good. The concern would be, is he going to be limited? He hasn't played since December 13th, so kind of a scary layoff there when you consider that, the Bucks do have a tendency to be cautious with Giannis. It's also a tough matchup. But he's 11-4. You don't have Jokic on the slate, so that always makes Giannis look a little bit better. Ownership-wise, he's not getting much. He's at 8%. You do have James Harden later playing, basically by himself. So that's going to make him look a lot better than Giannis. But as a tournament pivot, I think Giannis is fine. Harden's the priority, though.
Going to be tough to get to Drew Holiday today. 9,500 on FanDuel, 9,300 on DraftKings. If Giannis is back, he's just not the same guy. Similar story for Middleton. Just going to be tough to get any volume here. Can we really be rostering anything from Milwaukee, or does it all just come down to if Bobby Portis is in, this team is trouble? If Bobby Portis is out, you can still go to Cousins?
That's pretty much how I see it. And like, obviously, if you get to some Giannis, that's fine. But if Portis is in, like, he's really expensive too, so I don't really see anything. If he's out, you can get the Cousins. Giannis being back is risky for Cousins though, because not only is there a bunch of production going to Giannis and not to Cousins, but you potentially just get a bunch of Giannis at the 5 minutes and Cousins gets phased out. So with or without Portis, Cousins is risky. But if Portis is in, then I just don't even see a path for Cousins really.
By the way, Portis not on the injury report, so I am treating it like he's in. But the Bucks have also not really cared much about what they do on the injury report as of late, so your mileage may vary.
So why is Portis so cheap on DK? Is he not $8,500?
Yeah, he's $8,500. Isaiah, I think you don't understand what cheap means. Bobby Portis somehow is more expensive than Chris Middleton. Portis is not a very good play. He is unplayable, fully unplayable. You cannot play Bobby Portis today on DraftKings, or you're packing it in on that lineup. What would you have to know to play Bobby Portis at 8,500 today? That Holiday, Middleton, and Giannis are out?
I think I'm a little higher on than you are, but
8,500 center only?
I mean, yeah, like, so I don't think he's a good play. I don't know that I would say unplayable on a 5-game slate. Like,
with Giannis back, I mean, that is as unplayable as it's really going to get.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's still a 1.15 fantasy point per minute guy.
I don't think I'm as ridiculous as this sounds right now. How long has he been out? Since February 15th. Yeah, February 15th. December 15th.
Like, if Portis plays 30 minutes, he can do fine. He's probably not going to. But
yeah. I mean, we're talking about what, like a 1% chance that he pays off his salary?
Yeah, like, I would be surprised if I have Bobby Portis.
I got to speak in extremes if he's got a 0.2% chance of hitting his boom for me in 30 minutes. Like, I just assume that it's not going to work. I don't have any. People are going to ask about Dante DiVincenzo. I can't give him enough minutes to matter today. That's just not a risk I need to take today. There's enough ridiculous nonsense out there that I don't have to speculate on how long Dante DiVincenzo plays.
Yeah, it's not even like he's 3K or something on DraftKings.
And they don't care. Like, they have no incentive to play him a lot of minutes today at all. Milwaukee's playing for a different time. So let's move it on to the Golden State Warriors. 6.5-point dogs in Phoenix. Still got no Jordan Poole. Still no Andrew Wiggins. Still no Klay Thompson. Still no Damian Lee. No Moses Moody. Andre Iguodala is questionable. Not entirely sure how much that matters. Let's talk about the guys that are pulling the most ownership, because obviously it's Otto Porter at 25 to 35%, depending on whether you're on FanDuel or DraftKings, or 40% owned Gary Payton. Those are the first two guys we're going to talk about for Golden State: Otto Porter and Gary Payton.
Yeah, totally normal NBA season. But yeah, I mean, Payton played 33 minutes last game. Porter started and played 30. Payton's been a good fantasy producer when he's on the floor this year. He's still only 4,300. Pulling up now to see how he's been alongside Curry, because a lot of his minutes this year have been without Curry on the floor. But overall, he's a solid fantasy producer. He's pretty cheap. He's played 238 minutes alongside Curry, 0.92 DraftKings points per minute for Payton. Porter's at 0.91. So, I mean, they both just look like solid value options. And also, they're the third game of the day, which means that they are buying you a little bit more time than going to guys, the kind of questionable value pieces we talked about on, like, the Knicks, for example.
How do we manage Curry? 10K on FanDuel, 11-2 on DraftKings. To me, very clearly behind James Harden and very clearly behind Giannis.
I think he's similar to Giannis. I think he's behind Harden.
Ooh, similar to Giannis.
I don't know how many minutes Giannis plays.
That's fair.
Like, it wouldn't shock me if Curry plays 6 or 7 minutes more than Giannis does.
Talking like 36, 30, 37,
yeah,
30,
like
if
Giannis plays 30 minutes, Curry could play 6 or 7 more.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, like, that's the case where they become equals, which is so crazy about how good Giannis is on a per minute basis in comparison to Curry. 14% owned on DraftKings, 21 on FanDuel. I can say very comfortably that I will have less of the 21% on FanDuel and just probably more of the Giannis piece of it all. But
yeah, and Curry also, without Poole and Wiggins this year, 1.55 DraftKings points per minute with a 35% usage rate.
and Curry transcends this, but a full strength Phoenix team is not a great spot for Steph.
Sure.
But that doesn't change anything for me. But like he's going to have to do, if things are going well for Golden State, I assume it's because Curry's like 10 of 17 from 3 or something.
Yeah.
What about the rest of this team here? Draymond just is Draymond for me today. I don't really have much to add. Are you grabbing anybody else from the value pieces?
I don't really think so. I mean, we know that Kerr typically is going to run a pretty deep rotation. Looking at the last game, Toscano Anderson played 26 minutes. I don't feel confident that happens again. It certainly could. Bjelica played 22 minutes. That's kind of interesting because he is only 3,700. He is a very good fantasy producer when he's on the floor. Once again, no guarantee he plays a lot of minutes. But I think if I were to go anywhere else, the Bjelica at 3,700, Looney at 3,900, Toscano Anderson at 3,900, certainly only playing one of them in the same lineup. But there is plenty of volatility in their playing time that can end up making them look appealing in tournaments.
Anything else for Golden State?
Nope.
Phoenix is easy because this is just the same team we get for Phoenix all the time. No COVID issues or anything like that. Highest owned guy for Phoenix today on DraftKings, 8.8% owned DeAndre Ayton. It's a little different on FanDuel. Devin Booker's only 7,600. He's pulling 20% ownership. Bridges and Paul both got over 10%. I assume you're just sort of randomly picking Phoenix dudes out of a hat today.
Pretty much. Booker, Paul, Ayton. I mean, everybody knows these guys are capable of big games. There's nothing that makes one of them really stand out here. Booker's playing time isn't an issue. He played like 35 to 36 minutes last game. He's not limited at all after missing some time. So that's not a concern. But yeah, they're all just kind of priced where they should be. And one other thing to add, because I don't think we mentioned him, but people are talking about him in chat. Draymond Green looks fine. He's just kind of what Draymond Green always is.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't really have much to add on him. It's just, Yeah,
I just didn't. I didn't want to
like
dissuade
15 and 15 out of Draymond today, and be like, okay, that made sense.
Right. Yeah, I didn't want to imply he wasn't a good player. There was just nothing interesting to say.
Yeah, there's not a ton of guys that are just completely average and lined up where they're supposed to be, and Draymond is one of those things for today. Right. In, out, doesn't really matter. It's not like Draymond's going to suddenly become a 22% usage guy. Probably wouldn't go well. Yeah, I wish I had more to talk about for Phoenix. I mean, on FanDuel, pretty clearly, Booker at 7,600 is the best option you're going to find, but it's tough to really prioritize anything from Phoenix. I got nothing else here.
Me neither.
All righty, let's talk a little bit about our sponsor. That would be PrizePicks. And it's going to be a little bit different. You don't have to worry about optimizers or anything like that, or sharks. You're basically building parlay cards, and you can start one off pretty easily here. Christmas Day special, LeBron James, Adam, over under 0.5 points for today.
Gonna go ahead and take the over.
That seems like a reasonable thing that you should do. Not entirely sure you're going to miss on that one. If LeBron James doesn't go over a half point, honestly, it's just really sad, because he played and got the Gordon Hayward injury right out of the gate or something, which would be terrible. I got a couple other props that I could hit Adam with but again, you're trying to make at best a 5-player lineup that can net up to 10x your entry fee. You can download the app in the App Store, Google Play, go to prizepicks.com. We have a free PrizePicks NBA prop tool that will help you make your best plays. You can also get 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum when you sign up and make a deposit at PrizePicks. You'll get an email in about 24 to 48 hours after you redeem your first month of Awesemo Plus. Adam, let's start with some of the guys that we already talked about. How about we go to this one's one? I don't even think we mentioned this guy's name. Julius Randle, over under 42 fantasy points.
Over.
I got him right at 41, so that's probably one that I'm going to dodge. How about everyone's favorite play, Alec Burks, over under 27.5?
I have him at 28.
Real okay.
I'm
going to take the under there, but I'm not comfortable with it at all. And then, okay, this one's fun too. Clint Capella, over under 34.5 fantasy points.
So that's basically just saying, does Clint Capella play more than 30 minutes?
Yeah, basically.
I'll take the over.
Okay.
Not super confident. I would rather just not do Clint Capella props unless it's a tournament format where I get some sort of bonus for getting Clint Capella right.
For those that care, Steph Curry's is set at 46. That's FanDuel scoring. I got him at 45.3. So I feel pretty good about my Steph Curry projection too. Right on the number, more or less. Check out PrizePicks, everybody. Don't forget, use that promo code Awesemo. You guys can see the banner at the top of the screen just in case you forget. And hit that like button. We're up to 2,000 people. We're just shy of 500 likes, but this should be 600 by now. On to 8 o'clock start. Brooklyn Nets, 1.5 point dogs in LA, 223 total. Things are different here for Brooklyn now because when I first recorded my video yesterday, I felt pretty good. Then everything changed. No Joe Harris, no Kevin Durant, no LaMarcus Aldridge, no Kyrie Irving, Cam Thomas, Kessler Edwards, David Duke, or Day'Ron Sharpe. These are the guys that are in. Harden, Patty Mills, Claxton, Bruce Brown, James Johnson, Blake, DeAndre Bembry, Paul Millsap, Javon Carter. They can actually run out a 10-man rotation of guys that were on the team when they started this season, which is always nice to see. Let's start with what I think is pretty clearly the best play of the day. 10,200 on FanDuel, 10,700 on DraftKings. James Harden is projected for 50% ownership across both sites. How do we handle this? Because that's a lot.
It is a lot. And the only real concern I would have is he hasn't played in 2 weeks. So what's he look like? I guess in the case of Harden, literally fat. What's he look like? What'd you say?
Probably fat.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But like, I assume he's going to play normal minutes. I feel better about assuming Harden's going to play normal minutes than Giannis, I think. I don't know if that's even like a good take. It just feels right based on like who they are.
Yeah.
But like still rostering somebody at 50% that maybe is going to have conditioning issues doesn't necessarily feel great, but he should be fantastic. I mean, you have a skeleton squad for the Nets, and then you have James Harden just doing everything. So I'll be going to Harden. I just, if it fails, I would assume it's because he plays less minutes than I want him to, or because he's just running up and down the court out of shape.
36 minutes for Harden. Is that just what you're going with today?
Yeah, that seems fine. Like maybe even if I go 34, 35, he's going to look good.
Let's say, so right now we have Harden projected 50% owned. I understand what this question is going to imply, and I know you don't have an actual answer. Do you think the most likely scenario for you is under the field, with the field, or over the field?
My guess is over.
Okay.
And also just to kind of put things in context, because, we kind of talked about what if Giannis plays like 30 to 32 minutes, and then we just immediately said 35, 36 for Harden. In a normal game, Giannis is playing like 35 minutes. So 30 to 32 is shaving a few minutes off. If this game were played and Harden hadn't missed any time, Harden's playing 41, 42 minutes. So giving him 35, 36 is definitely discounting or factoring in that he hasn't played in 2 weeks.
Yeah, we're on the same page there. With Harden at 53% owned on FanDuel, the dummy crunch that I ran before gave me 53% of James Harden. So I am just spot on the field for right now. Feel comfortable there. Do you feel comfortable with anything else for this Brooklyn team? Let's talk about the most owned guy that isn't James Harden. Obviously, that's Paul Millsap, 3,600 on FanDuel, power forward, center eligible, flat 3K, same eligibility. Look, I think it's reasonable that Paul Millsap plays some decent minutes. I don't think that I want a single share of 28% owned Paul Millsap today.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't played since the 10th either. We don't really know what their rotation is going to look like. He is a good fantasy producer, and he is 3K flat. So, like, I get why he's getting ownership. I think he is a good play. I don't feel super confident, but, you do have Aldridge out. You do have, most of this team out. So there's plenty of minutes available for him. It's just a matter of kind of what Nash is going to do.
Yeah. Which I don't trust at all, obviously. So who else can we actually like here? Is it James Johnson day if he's just unowned and Paul Millsap's 28% owned? That's
kind of what I was thinking, was like Millsap's the better fantasy producer, but they've both been out for a while. Johnson was, has basically been ahead of him like all season in the rotation. So I'm not super convinced that Paul Millsap just plays a million minutes and that James Johnson's not a good play.
Yeah, that's sort of where I'm landing on this one too.
Like right now we have like Johnson projected not to play and Millsap to play 23 minutes. I don't know why that is necessarily like it certainly could be. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying like I have no confidence in that.
December 8th, Durant was out, Aldridge was out. Claxton played Bruce Brown played. James Johnson played. Millsap played. All four of those big guys that I'm mentioning all played like 18 to 19 minutes.
Did you say Blake played?
Yes. Blake played 14 minutes that game. Now, like Cam Thomas was in and whatever, but like I don't think that that's super relevant for this particular discussion. Harden did play; he played 40 minutes. Like, if you're getting if Paul Millsap is going to be 20% owned, take your shots on James Johnson, or like even if you want to say that it's Blake or Claxton or something. Those guys obviously have bigger price tags, but I'm gonna take my chances elsewhere. At least he's got the power forward eligibility.
Yeah, like I think he's a good play. It's just a lot of it, and it goes back to something I said at the beginning of the show. Like a lot of it's just going to come down to the ownership, because I can tell you what I think the most likely case is. You can say what you think the most likely case is. Alex can say what he thinks the most likely case is. We're all essentially guessing at rotations that we haven't really seen, and so if you ever get like an industry consensus that is going to drive up ownership, it starts to just be worth it to say like, okay, well, I know that at best we're going to be right like 65% of the time because we don't know. And so you can kind of just start saying, okay, well, what if everybody's wrong, because they're going to be wrong a lot. And that's kind of how I view situations like that. And that's why ownership.
Let's not forget, like, this is the first game Brooklyn's played in a week.
Right.
Are we underselling Nick? Well, I guess ownership isn't. 15% owned Nick Claxton today at 4,500. Is he being undersold a little bit?
Seems about right to me, I think. Like, I would expect him to play mid-20s.
Yeah.
If he had power forward eligibility, he'd look a hell of a lot better.
Yeah. I got him in for 24 right now. I maybe feel a little light. James Johnson was listed out earlier, but I updated his minutes a little bit ago. That comes from the boss man in chat. So take a look at it. Both Cam Reddish and DeLon Wright are nursing a little bit of an injury per Nate McMillan, but they should be ready to play today. That's fun. Conditioning could be an issue on Capella, but he'll play. So thanks for absolutely nothing there, Nate.
Yeah. Okay. So with that update, this is like a lot more in line with what I was thinking in my head. Like, we have James Johnson at 18 points. We have Millsap at like 17 and a half. Johnson's a little bit more expensive. They're pretty comparable plays. So that's what I was picturing. It's like, okay, Millsap's a good play here, but if you're going to get 23 to 1, I'll take James Johnson.
Yeah, we're on the same page. We got ownership a minute ago too, just in case you didn't refresh that as well. So
okay, cool.
Millsap down to 12, James Johnson up to 9. That is
okay. This makes
visually what makes sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah. So now I will go back and say I think Paul Millsap's a good play. I think James Johnson's a good play. I wouldn't play them together, but there's a decent chance that if one of them plays well, they just get more minutes and it looks really good.
Yeah. Now we're on the same page here. That's a little bit easier. Anything else that we need to be touching on from Brooklyn? They're kind of ugly, all things considered. Bruce Brown's probably like the most interesting piece for me at 5% owned on DraftKings, but I don't know what the hell to do with Brooklyn.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think Brooklyn's just kind of interesting because it's a good spot for sure against the Lakers. And I think that there's enough uncertainty in the rotation because they have enough bodies. They don't, have to play any of these scrubs like 40 minutes. It's just going to make it so like all of these guys are relatively low. And so I do think that makes for an interesting spot in tournaments. For example, going back to that first game where we talked about Skylar Mays being 26% owned. I don't know what he's in the recent update, but just using that number as an example, we saw him at 26%. Skylar Mays, let's say he starts, right? He's going to feel or be quote unquote safe as a cheap value option that's likely to play a good amount of minutes, but he still has downside risk. And then with the Nets, you still have all of these guys that on average, they're kind of mediocre, but there's a pretty good chance that whoever's playing well out of these fringe Nets guys is going to get more run. And because their median projection isn't as good and they don't seem as safe, they're just going to be a lot lower. So even though I don't have a lot of confidence in any of these Nets guys individually, I do think that in tournaments where you have a Millsap, Johnson, Brown, Bembry, like any of those guys can certainly there's a lot of volatility in their playing time and in their production.
Not to mention, you're not locking in Skylar Mays at noon any longer. You can cast that net for Brooklyn. News comes out. You have more pieces and more guys to readjust your lineups as we move through the day.
Right.
Anything else for Brooklyn?
No. I guess rules would matter.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't care who I play with Harden. I don't care who I play with Mills. I doubt I really play Mills, but that's beside the point. In the front court, I'd already said I probably only want one of Millsap Johnson. I would think I probably only want one of Bembry and Brown, and I probably only want one of Griffin and Claxton given their prices.
Yeah, I think that makes some sense. Blake at 5,600, that's a tough sell too. Like,
right, like he's playable, but for him to have a big game, he's probably getting some center minutes if he has like his ceiling game, which would make me not really want him with Claxton.
Wow, chat's on one here. Oh, it's Isaiah. Millsap has to play 35 minutes per Isaiah battles.
Okay.
Apparently they have no bigs. I mean, apparently they only have Paul Millsap and James Johnson and Nick Claxton and Blake Griffin and whatever you want to call Bruce Brown at this particular moment. But yeah, seems like they got a lot of bigs.
Yeah. Somebody said if you don't play Mays and he goes for 40, then you're done. Yeah. I mean, if you don't play guys and they do well, it's not good.
Yeah. Generally speaking, when you don't play the guys that score a ton of fantasy points, your day ends early. EMAC 35 minutes in the next week. When's the last time you think Paul Millsap played 35 minutes?
Atlanta.
35. I'm scrolling back on FC. 35. I still haven't found a 30 yet. All right. He played 30 on March 26th of this year. That's 30. 33. So still didn't get it. Not a lot of 35s in here, folks. You'd be surprised to know. Not a frequent occurrence here for one Paul Millsap. Still haven't found one. 36 minutes. Last time that he played 35 minutes or more. December 23rd of last season. Nailed it.
Was he on Denver then? I don't even remember where he's been.
Yeah, had to be, right?
Yeah, I just didn't remember if Denver was the last team or not.
Incredible. All right, let's go to the Lakers.
Somebody said, why did Mays only play 9 minutes 2 games ago? Because they can. Like, there's nothing really else to it. They just played Stevenson more minutes than they did last game. They had Sharif Cooper. Cooper started the second half.
No Avery Bradley, no AD, no Ariza, Monk, none Reeves or Bazemore. Darren Collison available for the Lakers. Apparently, the Lakers have also signed Stanley Johnson. I'm interested for that team, but that's neither here nor there.
Wait,
LeBron.
I thought you were still on the Bulls.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't. They definitely signed him. Best I can do. I wish that I had any idea who of Darren Collison, Isaiah Thomas, and Rondo are going to play the most minutes. I know who should. I don't think it's going to be Collison. Maybe I could add
Collison over Westbrook.
I mean, if this team's at full strength, Darren Collison is unquestionably a better fit for this team than Russell Westbrook. But
I actually thought it was kind of weird that he came back because, like, didn't he sign with the Lakers like 2 or 3 years ago and then just like retire instead?
Yeah, he became, I believe, a Jehovah's Witness.
But like he was like in his prime, like he was a good player, and he was like, yeah, I'm done playing.
Yeah, he did. I get it for this one. If he's just like, this is not a commitment, I can come back for 10 days. Like, just play some basketball.
Yeah,
that's
and
fine.
Then like if LeBron happens to carry them to a title, he gets a ring too.
Yeah, but like if they're like, oh, here's a couple $100,000 or whatever the hell you make to be a vet minimum in this spot. I like
he's like, oh, I was gonna go to the gym and shoot around the next 10 days anyway. I'll just do it for the Lakers.
Right. Yeah, if you don't have to make like a full season commitment, it's a different thing. Yeah. LeBron James, 36% owned on FanDuel at 10.9, 35% owned on DraftKings at 10.8. Where does he land in terms of studs for you today? Because that's a lot of ownership.
So I was going to say he's my second favorite, but he's the one that I think is comparable to Giannis and Curry, more so than Harden. When I look at Harden, it's like, yeah, either of those guys certainly could beat Harden, but I think Harden's kind of in a different category given who's out on his team. LeBron looks very good with Davis out. He's played really well. This game should have plenty of scoring and all that, but and the position eligibility is really good with point guard, small forward. But I don't think there's a huge difference between LeBron James and Steph Curry and Giannis. LeBron's around 1.6 DraftKings points per minute without Davis this year. Curry is at 1.55 without Poole and Wiggins. Giannis is always at 1.7 or whatever. So I think those guys are all pretty much the same, and that I would like the ownership to be closer together. If they were all the same ownership, LeBron's the guy. But given the ownership gap, I think getting to some Curry and some Giannis over LeBron makes sense.
Joe LeCates wins the chat. He said he's just back to try to convert the Lakers. He'll leave if they don't answer the door. Kudos, man. Kudos. That actually got me. I heard nothing that you were saying about LeBron James.
I saw you laughing. Well, so I saw you laughing, and I just looked at my phone expecting it to be like LeBron James and James Harden and Giannis are out today or something.
No, that one got me. That's a good joke. LeBron James, though, not the only person pulling a ton of ownership. Talen Horton-Tucker is 41% owned on FanDuel and 25% owned on DraftKings. 5K on the first site, 5,400 on DK. How you feeling about THT?
It's kind of just there. I mean, he played 38 minutes last game, which, was good to see. Probably plays low to mid 30s today on average. Certainly could play more. I think he's fine. Like, I just don't really feel strongly one way or the other. I think he's probably the second best play on the Lakers.
Yeah. I think 41% owned on FanDuel, even at 5K, is ludicrous. I got him at 34 minutes too, and 0.84 fantasy points per minute, which is higher than he's been over the last 30 days. It's just too much. Like, he's very clearly the best play on the Lakers and probably close to a cash play, if not like a definite cash play, but feels a little high in GPPs. Yeah,
DraftKings seems more reasonable. He's at like 24%. We actually have him with a 34% chance of being in the optimal. So actually, I guess going a little bit under owned here.
I think that's kind of reasonable too.
Yeah.
It just feels weird. I don't like it on those like 0.8 type guys. That's where it gets scary. What do we do with Russ
when they're playing
other than
alongside
nothing?
LeBron and Russ?
Yeah. 9,800 for Russ on FanDuel, 10K for Russ on DraftKings. Anything here?
You know what the ceiling is for us, but at the same time, so far with Davis out, you've clearly seen LeBron be the one that steps up and takes over. It hasn't really been like a splitting of duties where Westbrook's doing really well also. In the 6 games, Westbrook's at 1.1 DraftKings points per minute, 28.9% usage rate, 25.6% assist percentage, 11% rebounding percentage. So it's not even like the rates are really high and he just hasn't converted them to fantasy points. It's really just been the LeBron show.
Anything else for the Lakers? Any Dwight Howard interest here?
Mild, I guess. Like, we have him with the fourth highest chance of being in the optimal behind LeBron, Horton-Tucker, and Westbrook at 10%. He's only getting 5% ownership. So basically you're just saying, against Nick Claxton and Blake Griffin and James Johnson and Paul Millsap, maybe Howard gets a little bit more run. If that happens, he's going to look really good at 4,800. If he plays 22 minutes, he could still maybe kind of get there at 4,800. But, it's basically, if he's in the closing lineup, you're going to want him. Probably. Yeah. Especially at that ownership.
Isaiah Thomas, Rondo, Collison, there's nothing there, right?
I don't think so. I mean, even last game, Rondo played 12 minutes. Thomas played 21, and some of that was garbage time. Like, without garbage time, Thomas plays like 16 minutes. And then now you're potentially adding Collison into the mix.
All righty. Promo code Frosty. One word, obviously, FROSTY. $1 NBA Express Weekly Pass for all of the Christmas Day games. If you're trying to get in, use that promo code right now. You'll get in for $1. You get access for $1. It's only valid through Christmas Day, so make sure you're hopping in with that promo code Frosty. Again, $1 NBA Express Weekly Pass, but it only exists today. Let's close it out. Dallas Mavericks, 12.5-point underdogs in Utah. Still waiting on the news for Kristaps Porzingis. I'm assuming he's playing for right now. No Luka, Bullock, Willie Cauley-Stein, Tim Hardaway, Maxi Kleber, Trey Burke. Josh Green, I believe, just cleared protocols. Yep. And then Ja'Cory McLaughlin doesn't matter at all. Anyway, assuming Kristaps Porzingis is in, Jalen Brunson is still very clearly the best option here from Dallas, 7,400 and 7,600 across FanDuel and DraftKings, 25 to 30% owned. The other guy that's pulling a ton of ownership is quite obviously Frank Ntilikina, 3,900 on FanDuel, 3,400 on DraftKings, 30% owned. Do you have any specific thoughts on Brunson?
No, I mean, I like that the salary dropped on DraftKings. He was 8,500 last game. I think I even had a decent amount of him then, but now coming back to 7,600, he looks good. Should play a ton of minutes here with no Luka and no Burke. Even if Porzingis is in, I would expect upper 30s from Brunson. If he's out, that's even more solidified. He's been a little over a fantasy point per minute guy with or without Porzingis, as long as Luka's off the floor. So just makes him look really good. The only downside is, it is a really, really tough matchup at Utah. Dallas has a 101 implied total. They're 13-point dogs. It could certainly just be an ugly game for Dallas.
Ntilikina, 30% owned. What are you getting?
He's a really, really good point per dollar value. I'm not overly concerned about Frank Ntilikina scoring enough raw points that I have to have him to win a tournament against the Utah Jazz. So at that ownership, if I can find contrarian plays elsewhere, sure, he's a good value. He'll help me get good plays into my lineup. But he's another one where I would rather take lower probability, lower projected plays at much less ownership, like guys from the Nets, like the pieces from Golden State, like Bielitsa, Toscano Anderson, guys where they're not guaranteed to get a bunch of minutes, but if they play well, they can get more. And as a result, they're going to be low owned. Then just be holding hands with 30% of the field rostering Frank Ntilikina. And he's fine. He's about a 0.8 fantasy point per minute guy. He's likely to play 36 minutes or something like that. It's just, if he scores, let's say he gets 23 DraftKings points, that's good for his salary. It's not hurting you, but there's a pretty good chance that it's still not the best out of the cheap plays on this slate. But then if he were to only get 17, which is certainly possible because it's Frank Ntilikina against the Jazz, you're just in such a good position because 30-something% of the field has him. Where when you talk about the other riskier plays, yeah, it's certainly possible that Bruce Brown scores 17, but when he beats Frank Ntilikina, I'm just passing a huge percentage of the field. So I think I would rather just be finding lower owned cheap guys.
I'd rather spend $500 more on Sterling Brown with shooting guard small forward eligibility and half the ownership.
That would also make sense.
I don't think either of them are particularly great options, but I think Sterling Brown's probably going to play more minutes at half the ownership in the best possible MPE.
I'm not sure. So that's an interesting point. If Porzingis is back, Ntilikina may not even start.
Yeah, sure.
or Brown may not even start, but I think Brown's ahead of Ntilikina.
I would think so too. That would be my assumption. Just fits easier.
Right. And I mean, and either of them could play plenty of minutes off the bench too. But I think that's a worthwhile point is we haven't seen what the starting lineup is with this team. All that we really know is when Luka was out and Porzingis was in before, you were getting Brunson, Bullock, DFS, Porzingis, Powell.
Yeah.
Brown is Bullock's replacement from everything that I know. Ntilikina is basically the Hardaway replacement. So it wouldn't be surprising at all if people just play Ntilikina and then Porzingis gets rolled in and it's oh, Ntilikina's not starting. Oh shit, what do we do?
Anything else for Dallas?
No, but Jericho Sims is out. DeLon Wright and Cam Reddish are available.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Well, let's close it out then. Utah Jazz. This is the ultimate way to close this one out because we don't have to worry about shit unless these Utah guys just get axed in the next 10 seconds. I think Donovan Mitchell for 8,400 with 15% ownership on FanDuel might be the most under-owned play of the day for someone that has a legitimate ceiling. He's probably my favorite GPP play today. He's 9,600 on DraftKings, so it's a little bit less so. But again, he's 3% owned. I've got a lot of interest in that against Dallas. Rudy Gobert is about 20% owned in the 9s today. I'd like to get your thoughts there and then open it up for the rest of Utah. Close it out here for us.
I think they just look like a good tournament team. There's no one guy that stands out as a priority or a great play, but we know Rudy Gobert is very capable of going for 50 to 60 DraftKings points. He's the highest owned guy on this team on DraftKings at 17%. Bogdanovich and O'Neal are both completely mediocre fantasy producers, but they're pretty inexpensive. They're both likely to play around 30 minutes. Conley is only getting 7% ownership. Mitchell at 9,600. A little bit overpriced for his average production, but 3% ownership on a 5-game slate is pretty appealing. Same can be said for Clarkson at 2%, Whiteside at 1%. These are all guys that, if one, especially in the case of Clarkson and Whiteside, 1% ownership on a 5-game slate for $3,700 Whiteside. You just need foul trouble for Gobert, a blowout where Whiteside plays 5 extra minutes or something. It's not hard for Whiteside to find a few extra minutes and look really good. Clarkson basically just needs to shoot well and he'll stay on the floor. So there's a lot of upside at pretty low ownership here, just not guys that stand out as priorities individually.
We're on the same page there. I don't have anything else. Anything else you want to touch on before we get out of here and turn it over to Live Before Lock? We got 600 likes. If you hit that like button one last time, we might get to 700.
That's all I got.
There it is, everybody. Thank you for joining us for the NBA Deeper Dive. Stick around. Live Before Lock is next. Thank you to PrizePicks for being the sponsor of this show. Enjoy the rest of your holiday, everybody. Enjoy Live Before Lock. Good luck. Win some money. We're out of here. Thank you.
Let's ride. What's going on, everybody? Merry Christmas. Welcome to the NBA Live Before Lock show presented by PrizePicks. I'm Eric Lindquist, sitting alongside my buddy at Ehrenberg DFS. That's Greg Ehrenberg there on the Twitter sphere. Excited to be talking some NBA hoops. This is one of my favorite slates of the entire year. Greg, is it one of yours?
It's up there. I mean, this one's a little weirder than normal just because usually we get a whole bunch of marquee matchups, which we do in a sense today, but almost all of them are marred by some kind of COVID or injury status. So we've got the Hawks-Knicks game, and we've got the Hawks with no Trae Young. Like Trae Young returning to New York to MSG, that would have been super fun, but he's not playing today. Then we got the Warriors-Phoenix game. The Warriors are shorthanded. In the Lakers-Nets game, there's no Kevin Durant. There's no Anthony Davis. In the Dallas-Utah game, there's no Luka Doncic. So in general, yes, today it's a little bit wanting, but it's still good for DFS.
It's still good for DFS, and I think it's still good for anybody that enjoys the game of basketball. It's fun to watch basketball throughout the entire day. No doubt about it. And you get 2 games of NFL. By the way, NFL Live Before Lock coming up later in the afternoon. Deeper dive as well for that. Looking forward to being on that, talking some NFL here, 2-gamer on Saturday. But Greg, let's get to some NBA talk here. Well, everybody hits the like button, of course. You need to be doing that. It's Christmas. If there was ever one thing you could do, and it's just being generous and nice on Christmas, we would love if you just smash that like button. Take us up over 1,000 here. We've got 2.3K hanging out, watching some NBA right now. So let's get to it. At the guard position here, we always start there, and I would ask you some overarching slate themes, but I think we're both going to kind of be touching on the late swap element throughout this entire show. But I'm going to go right into guard because we've got 2 major pieces here to really discuss. I think, 3 if you include the entire Atlanta situation. But we've got Delon Wright, we've got Kemba Walker. And then I'll put Skylar Mays in there too. So we've got the 3 guards from Atlanta and Kemba Walker. How are you handling guards here in the early game, knowing we have so much value that could open up later on in the afternoon?
So, I mean, we could talk through these players individually. It's a shorter slate. There's a lot of time between games. So I'm going to start just by talking about Skylar Mays. I don't really, I'm not going to say I don't understand the chalk on Skylar Mays because I understand why people are getting there. But at the same time, too, I mean, we've got Clint Capella back, so we're going to see the Hawks most likely play some bigger lineups. And then something else to consider, Bogdan Bogdanovic, I don't think is going to have any significant restrictions today. He played 28 minutes last game. He looked pretty good down the stretch of that game. I think he's going to play a massive amount of minutes today. So I think we're probably more likely to get the game from Skylar Mays from 2 games ago than what we got last game, whereas 2 games ago, Skylar Mays started, but he only played 9 minutes. Last game, he played 34 minutes. I'm not going to, but both of them are extreme cases. I think it's probably somewhere in between, and Skylar Mays going a little bit overowned today.
I'm probably with you. I'm definitely going to be hitting eject a little bit here. 3,400, 3,500 on FanDuel. I understand why it's happening too. There's no doubt about it, but we have just so many pieces for 4 games later on in the day. And it's so hard when you're already going to be locked. I love Cam Reddish. I love Delon Wright. I don't really know what to say about those 2 plays. They make a lot of sense no matter what. I'm getting a little bit over the field on both of them simply because, they're too good for me to pass up. But now it's like, if I'm going to add Bogdanovic into the fray, how am I going to be adding 4 pieces of Atlanta that I really want to get like overweight to the field on with so many other things in lineups that can really open up? I'm willing to embrace more of the unknown than embrace a piece of Skylar Mays chalk. That's probably the right way of putting it. That's kind of what you're getting at, right?
It's not even the unknown, though, because that almost indicates that Skylar Mays is a piece of known information, which he isn't really. And, 2 games ago, this guy played 9 minutes and scored less than 1 fantasy point. And he started that game. So I don't think that he's some known quantity either. Also, the last 2 games, he had an 18% usage rate and a 10% usage rate. So I'm not massively high on Skylar Mays as is. The price is right. The Hawks are shorthanded. So he's in my player pool, but I'm just not anywhere really close to where the field is. DK and FanDuel, he's going to be, it looks, at least as of now, a massive chalk piece on both slates, and I'm about half of what the field is on both of them.
All right, let's jump over to Kemba Walker then, because this is a fun talking point. At $14 on Yahoo, you just kind of play him. I don't really know what to say, but looking at his numbers over on DK and FanDuel, I do have some apprehension coming off of some massive games where I think he might be the guy that's going a little bit overowned comparatively. Anytime somebody puts up 66.8 at 6,600 over on FanDuel, yeah, that's bound to happen. His price didn't adjust anywhere to account for that game. 6,100 over on DK. I'm thinking he's going to be maybe the piece that I'm hoping does not go off here in this early window. And it's sad to me because I love Kemba Walker. I always have. I always will. I've always been overweight to this guy in every situation, it seems like. But at 30% on DK, I just can't do it. Are you?
Let's see. So Kemba Walker, I'm underweight to the field on him as well. Here's something with Kemba Walker that certainly gives me a little bit of pause when we talk about him. We have the Knicks not healthy, but we are seeing the Knicks get RJ Barrett back today. And I don't know how many minutes RJ Barrett's going to play. He's coming back from COVID. He was sick. He was actually available to play last game, but ultimately just wasn't feeling well enough to play. He's going to start today, and who knows what Tibbs is going to do with him. There's a pretty wide range of outcomes in terms of what his minutes are. But with Kemba Walker, there's clearly upside, right? We saw it last game. He scored a gazillion points, and a lot of people are going to be chasing those points. I understand it, but we have RJ Barrett's back in the picture now. He wasn't. Daniel House is going to play minutes for the Knicks today. He was not on the team before. And I'm just not sold that we're going to see the same amount of usage of minutes going to Kemba Walker. So once again, kind of similar type of situation I have with Skylar Mays. He's in my player pool. I'm getting exposure to him. I just have less than the field does.
That's what I have. Again, it's not fading. I'm not going out and full fading this guy. I just can't get to 30% of him on DK. I just can't get, even to 20%. And, for me, let's talk about the one piece of the Knicks I do kind of like over on FanDuel. Alec Burks at 5,600. He's coming in around the exact same ownership here as Kemba. Again, I don't know what the minutes are going to look like for RJ Barrett. I don't know how everything is going to piece together there, but we've seen him in relief duty be pretty decent as well, playing a boatload of minutes. I got to expect he's still going to continue to play more than 30 here. So like 33, 34 minutes. I think that that's appealing for $1,000 less. I think he's probably the only other piece of the Knicks, and I'm even remotely interested in on FanDuel. On DK, I'm not getting to him. Anything else that you're getting to from the Knicks side whatsoever? Because again, this is the early game. I want to make sure we discuss it right away.
So a couple people in chat post that Daniel House is out. I gave him minutes today. Last I looked, he was listed as available on the injury report. Did I miss something?
Let me see. He's available. Yeah, I see him available. I mean, I have him projected for 6 minutes, so I don't know what that does for anybody.
So, I mean, I gave him 10 minutes, which is not significant in this terms. Am I playing? I'm absolutely not playing Daniel House, but if he's in the rotation and I'm giving him minutes, it's just coming from other guys. And that means Kemba Walker last game played, Kemba Walker's played north of 40 minutes in recent games. I just can't project him to get that many minutes with other players there. And anybody who says that they're looking at the DK injury report's garbage. Don't use anything from DK. the official injury report has Daniel House in right now.
Yeah, we've got News God. He's hanging out here in the chat. I'm sure. Merry Christmas, News God. Merry Christmas to everybody else here. Very excited to kind of be, here talking NBA on Christmas Sunday or Saturday. Sorry, I thought it was Sunday. It's whatever day it is here that I'm doing shows. I'm not used to doing shows on Saturday. That's probably the right way of saying it. Usually my day off, but I'm going to just go off of what I'm looking at here. I see on Twitter that he's available. News God, if he's there, he's probable right now. Yeah. So News God, there we go. The official hammer comes in. So good to see that. Again, I don't think it's like a meaningful thing where he like strips, 10, 12 minutes from Alec Burks or something. And obviously RJ Barrett just being available and being in that starting lineup, if he's good to go. That's the thing that matters the most for me. I'll probably give Burks a bump up big time in the event that RJ Barrett ends up being out, but Evan Fournier becomes dwarfed 5,500 over on DK. I just can't even remotely get close to that either. I'm just not getting to anything else from this game. And we'll get to the forward center spots. Let's go through some guard here because we've got one big piece here at the top. James Harden is going to be playing here today on Christmas Saturday, Brooklyn and LA there at the 8 p.m. It is 8 p.m. Eastern time slot here. Fourth game up. How much James Harden are you getting to on this slate?
My most rostered player today across all the sites I'm playing on. And there's no way that the Nets are going to be competitive in this game unless there's a big James Harden game. Kevin Durant isn't playing. Kyrie Irving, he's on his way back with the team, but he's not going to be there yet. He's in the COVID protocols. And then you just have to look at the numbers this year. When there is no Kevin Durant on the court, James Harden has a usage rate of 34.7%. He's going to be taking all the shots for the Nets, and he's going to be well rested. The Nets haven't played in a meaningful amount of time now for reasons unknown, every other team has to play through whatever COVID protocols are short. The Hawks have been playing with nobody. They've got
Philly.
We're discussing Skylar Mays to play, not because anybody thinks Skylar Mays is good. The only reason we're talking about Skylar Mays is because the Hawks are so shorthanded. They've been forced to play minutes. The Nets get a couple of guys who are sick, and the NBA is like, shut down the Nets. The Nets aren't allowed to play now. So with that in mind, Harden's rested. The Nets are still missing Durant. So I do think that James Harden is pretty clearly, for me, the top pay-up option today.
I'm with you. He's my most rostered spend up. He is my most rostered player as well. So there you go. I'm just going through all the different sites here. What a fun slate. I can't tell you, these tournaments around the industry are just fantastic. Hopefully you guys are getting in these here as well. And hopefully you're playing on PrizePicks too. We're going to be chatting them half an hour after the show. Looking forward to doing that with you as well. Think that there's some very, very interesting props here, especially from some of the Brooklyn sides. We will get to those, of course, shortly. Other players garnering a lot of attention across the industry. Some pieces of value here that end up being a little bit more owned than you kind of expect. I mean, Gary Payton, the second, always normal when he's the second highest owned guard on any kind of a slate, but 4,300, I don't completely hate it. It's not my favorite thing to be looking at. He is coming off of a really nice outing there, 33 minutes. He ended up getting the start. So long as he gets the start here again against Phoenix, 4,300, just fine. But do I want to get to like 42% of him, especially knowing that there could be a lot from this Dallas team to extract later in the day? I'm not gung-ho on it. Is there anything specific that you're doing with Gary Payton II?
So I have a lot of him in my player pool. I'm going to end up with less of him by the time the game actually starts. But look at the Celtics injury situation right now. And the Warriors game starts after the Boston Celtics game. And I'm trying to give myself some flexibility to be able to make swaps. Here's currently all the players listed as questionable for the Boston Celtics: Al Horford, Marcus Smart, Romeo Langford, Jabari Parker, Juancho Hernan-Gomez, and Broderick Thomas. That comes in addition to Enes Kanter-Freedom. He is out. We've got Grant Williams out. Sam Hauser's out. CJ Miles is out. Josh Richardson out. Aaron Neesmith is out. Justin Jackson is out. So there are so many guys listed on the injury report for the Boston Celtics. I don't know exactly who I'm playing from Boston, but there's going to be value somewhere. So the benefit of having a lot of Gary Payton in my lineups right now is that I just have the flexibility to swap him to some of the value that opens up from the Celtics. So I'm going to like Gary Payton either way, but I also really like the flexibility that he offers me in the time slot as game starts in.
I think that's a great point. That's a great way of doing it. For me, I've just kind of boosted up Dallas guys. You could do it with any piece that you want to do it. For me, I just choose the last game of the slate, and I've kind of boosted those guys up. And I'm just playing it each start time. You kind of adjust your lineups to the news. You kind of go with the flow. That's what makes today so special, is like you have an opportunity to be late swapping throughout the day. And as long as do you remember the slate like 2 years ago with Enes Kanter, now Enes Freedom, where he put up like a 50 burger in the early slate or the first game of the day for the Knicks, and you were just drawing dead with that lineup? I don't really have that fear with anybody. It's not like I'm full fading anybody from that first game that I feel remotely worried about. Like, you know, if Evan Fournier goes off, yeah, I'm probably drawing dead more than likely, but I don't really see that happening. You know, I just think that having those staggered start times really allows for as much late swap ability to take over as possible. And I'm with you. I think having the most flexibility, no matter how you want to do it. So getting more Gary Payton, that makes some sense, especially because, you know, point guard, shooting guard eats up a lot of different spots that you can get to over on DK, FanDuel, so on and so forth. Let's get to some other guys. Who are some guards that are really getting to the top of your player pool? We've got like guys, Frank Ntilikina, some pieces of value here. Jalen Brunson on the top end, who I'm in love with, especially if you get Porzingis out. Who else are you getting to a lot at the guard position?
We talk about the Brunson piece for a second, because I'm pretty sure that Porzingis is playing today. He was supposedly close to playing the other day, and they decided to hold him out for one more day just so he'd be ready for Christmas. So I feel pretty good that Porzingis is playing today, and I just don't like this matchup for Jalen Brunson either. On the road in Utah, if there's any one game that's going to blow out today, that would be the one. The spread's currently 10.5. I don't think the spread is wide enough either. It's such a tough matchup for him on the road against the Jazz. And I know there's extra usage going to him with Doncic out. Any pause from you, though, about the matchup or anything like that? Because I'm also really concerned, you know, what happens if, let's just say you're building your lineups on the chance that Porzingis is out and you're trying to give yourself extra flexibility. If he plays, which I think is going to happen, you're just kind of screwed because there's no way to pivot.
I'm probably in the camp where I don't think he plays, simply because they're going to be double-digit dogs here in Utah no matter what. And it's not the most winnable spot here. Do you really want to be pushing Porzingis to get out there here right now in an already very difficult spot? I'm probably more in the camp that I don't think that he goes. Save him for a better spot. Don't utilize him here. Maybe if you really want to go out and win on Christmas Day and that matters and whatever else, great. But I doubt it. For me, I really do like Brunson a lot. I'm going to be over the field on 26%, like pretty massively to start off here. Again, it could be something where news breaks. We don't know what news is going to break throughout the day, but I guarantee you something happens. Like we just saw, D'Angelo Russell ends up in health and safety protocols. Of course, that doesn't matter to the context of today, but would it be surprising if somebody, period, ended up in health and safety protocols that we didn't expect today? No, it would not surprise me whatsoever. So I'm stacking as many guys in this late game as I possibly can and waiting throughout. But I do think Brunson, so long as, I hope that news comes a lot later. Brunson's also lost a lot of his tag over on DraftKings. Like he's dropped down to 7,600 coming off a slate where he was all the way up at 8,500. I think that that's really, really meaningful because it doesn't take as much for him to go nuts up there. Raw points, it's still a 5-game slate. And I think raw points can really matter. And, he has a 50 piece definitely within him in the absence of Porzingis. I think 7,400 on FanDuel is also just like a misprice. So I'm above the field on him, and we'll kind of see what other news pops up. But as it stands right now, that's kind of the way that I'm leaning. I guess the one that I'm uncomfortable with is Frank Ntilikina and some of these other pieces of value. Sterling Brown. I don't know what that starting rotation would look like here. More than likely in the event that Porzingis returns, but I know what it's going to look like in his absence. Do you have any qualms if Porzingis is out getting to Frank Ntilikina here?
I have him in my player pool right now, at least on DK where he's 3,400. I don't think there's need to roster him on FanDuel or Yahoo per se. On DK at 3,400, he's cheap enough that I think he's worth getting some exposure to. Like, I don't view Frank Ntilikina any different than, say, Skylar Mays. I have these guys projected nearly identically. So just because of the price point, and there's so many stars to roster on the slate, I think he's worth getting exposure to. And by the way, just one more thing, because I'm just fixated on the Porzingis thing now. Also, the injury was misreported. He doesn't have a foot injury. He has a sore toe. And all indications were that he was about to play last game and they held him out just so he would have extra time to be ready for Christmas. But whatever, we'll see what ends up happening. I don't expect the games to be competitive either way.
Okay. Yeah, I don't either. Again, if I'm the Mavericks, I think about that through. Again, we don't want to assume anything or put it together. I'm just leaning towards Porzingis being out. And I understand that like he's healthier than what has been reported. That's for sure. I'm very aware of that as well. But in that same vein, I just don't see a reason for them to go and overutilize him. Other guard situations to be looking at here. We've got some guys that on the cheaper end. I'm just going back and forth between all the different sites here right now. Donovan Mitchell, Mike Conley. I don't really see why they're getting double digit on FanDuel. I suppose it's just another raw points thing. 5,800 Mike Conley. I'm kind of been waiting for one of those like 40 spots, and it hasn't necessarily been there. He's been decent of late, but nothing that I'm really kind of forcing my way to. Is there any other guard that's going a little bit lower owned than what you were anticipating?
Let's see. I'm going to scroll through my most exposed players on FanDuel and DK and see who it is that's picking up not as much ownership as I would have expected from the guard spots. I guess Steph Curry to an extent, where he's projected for less than 20% ownership on FanDuel, and he has a much cheaper price point on FanDuel than he does on DK at 10,000. I think that's a little bit light on ownership for him. Also, now looking at the shooting guard spot. On FanDuel, Bogdanovich is only projected for 10% ownership. That's criminally low to me, considering all the players that are out for them.
That's lovely. Honestly, I think that's going to be the one piece that I just, talking through that a little bit. I mean, he's up to 33% on DK. I'm not going to be much over like that's going to be fine. But yeah, over on FanDuel, looking at that here right now. Wow, that's going to be a big stand, I think, for me, seeing 10% there. Again, there is a massive minutes upside that exists there. I wouldn't call it critically low at 6K, but like he is going to be the usage monster you would have to expect for this team. And I love that he hasn't shown it the last 3-4 games. I'm sure YouTube chat's going to go nuts about that, where it's like, well, he's been bad however long the last couple games. I don't care. It's Bogdanovich here in this spot. I mean, I think that there's a chance that he could end up starting here too. I'm not going to completely write that off. Would it surprise anybody if Skylar Mays didn't end up in the starting unit and it was Bogdanovich? No. I'm hoping that doesn't happen so that, I can be lower on Skylar Mays and everybody will stay at his current rostership on every site right now, just kind of shorting Skylar Mays and playing elsewhere for value. But I'm with you. I like Bogdanovich a lot. That's somebody I'm getting to more. Russell Westbrook, even looking at 10% over on DK. I think giving him a little bit of a boost here. Not that Darren Collison being added to the mix is something that's great, along with Isaiah Thomas and whomever else is on that roster. I just think that anybody that can triple double here or put up raw points on any slate here, I've got to be factoring in a little bit more. And we have enough value where it's not too hard to get up to that top tier. I definitely am with you where I prefer Steph Curry, though. Anybody else to really talk about at guard? I think we've done a pretty darn good job.
Just one thing I'm going to add also about Bogdanovich, because people might look at that 6,000 price tag and there's a kind of a knee-jerk reaction. It's something that I do too. When somebody's price goes up, I just kind of seem like, oh, price got up. There's always a little bit of a sticker shock where it's like, why would I pay $6,000 for somebody who was, 4,800 or whatever was the slate before? He was actually he was 6,200 on FanDuel last slate. But so that aside, earlier in the season though, he was considerably cheaper. Do you remember what Bogdanovich's price was when Trae Young was out last year?
I remember he got up over 7K.
Yeah, he was 7,800 and people had no problem playing him then. But just because we have the situation where Trae Young's out now and Bogdanovich was coming off an injury, he played some limited minutes, then I think everybody jumps off him. But he played 22 minutes 2 games ago. Last game, he played 28 minutes. And I just think there's going to be no kind of real restrictions today. I think we see him play 36 minutes or something like that today. And I think the fair price point for him in this matchup is probably in the mid 7K range. So I do really, really like Bogdanovich, even on FanDuel, where he's more expensive than he is on DK.
You know what that sounds eerily similar to, Greg? Sounds like Robert Williams a couple days ago.
It does. Somebody who you were right on and I was very wrong on. And by the way, I have no clue what to do with Robert Williams today either.
Me either.
Because he's a massively popular play. Yep. And I do not think he's a good play at all if Al Horford's in. If you look at the minutes that Robert Williams has played as of late in games with Al Horford, he does not play very much. Now, if Horford is out, then Robert Williams is going to take on the same role he had last game. But it's something that I just don't know where I'm going. I don't have very much Robert Williams right now. I'm going to be swapping onto him a ton if Al Horford gets ruled out, though.
Yep. The big difference, and then this is exactly what I said a couple of days ago, is that you're not going to get the ownership discount that you're getting on that day. You were not going to get the ownership discount going forward because then he showed it, and flat out that is going to make a huge difference. We'll get to the center position. I'm right there with you. Al Horford and his big piece that we're going to be waiting for him, Porzingis, all those guys later on. But we got the Knicks starting lineup. Walker, Fournier, and RJ Barrett is starting there. Randall Robinson, Alec Burks to the bench. Your reaction to that?
I mean, it was reported earlier. That's what the Knicks starting lineup was going to be. So no surprises.
All right. No surprises. We have a surprise for you though. $1 NBA Express Weekly Pass for all of Christmas Day games today. That's pretty good. $1. That's all it's going to be. Awesemo plus tools and projections for NBA Showdown and single game slates. That is just $1 with promo code FROSTY. FROSTY. Look at me. I can spell. Use Frosty for the promo. That'll activate it. So that's offered just through today. So utilize that. Promo code FROSTY. Check out all of the fixings we have here for NBA Weekly Express Pass. Again, it's just $1 for an entire week. It doesn't get a whole lot simpler than that. One fantastic promotion that we're running here. You want to be utilizing this right now. There's no doubt about it. Stop guessing, start winning, and join us here with promo code FROSTY. All right, let's go to the forward position here. And, it's pretty fascinating kind of depending on which side. You have Cam Reddish, who is forward eligible. You can definitely roster a bunch of him. I have no problem going his direction. But I want to start on FanDuel because there's one piece there that I'm just really, really, really uncomfortable with. And I need your help because you can
Otto Porter Jr.
No, but that was a good try. I feel more comfortable with Otto Porter than I do Talen Horton-Tucker at 5K. Now, I didn't expect to come into Christmas Day and have to be thinking about this idiot, but I love this guy. Like, I love him from Iowa State. So I guess I'm saying idiot mainly because I'm just mad at him for costing me as much money as what he has here over the course of this season. Just looking at his box score is maybe the most ridiculous, absurd thing, period, because he obviously has 30, 40 point upside here at 5K, but he's right now 34%. I did not expect that. I'm not getting remotely close to 34% of him. And I need you to help me because it feels like a piece that, if you get one of those games where he just decides to be active here, it's a more competitive spot. I think this game, I believe, has the closest spread out of every single one on Christmas Day. So Talen Horton-Tucker at 5K on FanDuel, are you in or out?
I just reran my lineups. I'm in on Talen Horton-Tucker today. So him at 5K, but there's a very wide range of outcomes with Talen Horton-Tucker. He's very much a boom or bust player. Like, there isn't a situation where you're going to look at Talen Horton-Tucker and be like, oh, he's going to produce at his salary point. These are the last 3 games for him without Anthony Davis in the lineup. 42 FanDuel points, 7 and 21. He's all over the place. But for a short 5-game slate, I'm going to try to get that upside. And a lot of it's going to depend on some of the shooting efficiency because the usage has been up a little bit for him the last few games. But sometimes he just doesn't make any shots. 2 games ago, for instance, that game against the Suns, he ends up going 1 of 13 from the field. But I think we also have to take in mind that this is a game against the Nets, where I think the defensive matchup is going to be a little bit easier with the Nets being shorthanded. I am in on Talen Horton-Tucker today.
All right. Well, for me on DK, it doesn't really matter because he's sub 20%. I'm going to get to a little bit no matter what. 5,400. I understand the upside play for it, but when it's such a popular piece like this, it feels like a spot where you either want to be overweight and you want to have your opportunity to be able to capitalize on that kind of a ceiling game, or you just want to be way, way lower to the field and hope that he just kind of destroys a third of the field. For me, that's kind of the way that I look at a play that's as volatile as what he's shown to be of late. One guy who isn't nearly as volatile lately, and it's so weird to say, but Otto Porter's playing big minutes here, 29 and 30 minutes the last 2. For his terms, that's pretty big. Anytime that he's been on a floor, he's very fantasy viable, over a 0.9 fantasy point per minute player, going back to his time in Chicago, coming back over here. It's always been a minutes thing for him, and now he's getting them. How do you feel about Otto Porter here on this slate?
Yeah, I really like Otto Porter, and I've always been pretty high on Otto Porter, even when people were super anti-Otto Porter. I've been rostering this guy for forever, for better or worse, when he's been lower owned. Obviously today not being lower owned, but he was one of my favorite free agency signings by a contender in the offseason. I thought a really good risk that the Golden State Warriors took. And don't forget, Otto Porter was coming off a max contract. And the reason that contract didn't work out was not because he didn't play well when he was on the court. It was just because of injuries. And when he's been healthy for the Golden State Warriors, he's a plus defender. He's a really good 3-point shooter. For his career, he shoots over 40% from 3, if I'm not mistaken. And now he's just playing bigger minutes. Last 2 games, 30 and 29 minutes with the Golden State Warriors being shorthanded. This is one of the rare opportunities where we get to roster a fully healthy Otto Porter Jr. that also doesn't have any kind of minutes restriction. So I think this is a really good buy low. He's one of my favorite value options on the slate.
Mine too. I think when I say I'm more confident with him than THT, it's just because you don't have the mixed bag with him. If I get the minutes, I know that he's going to produce. I think he's kind of shown to be that guy when he plays sub 20 minutes. Yeah, of course he's not going to necessarily get there, but anytime that he's playing 28, 29, 30 minutes, I'm pretty sure you're getting a nice range of outcomes. He's sub 4K on DK. He's pretty cheap over on FanDuel here as well, looking at him 4,500. So definitely there. One piece of news to touch on here, and I didn't expect to talk this much about Danuel House. He just got ruled out now. So there's that. Also,
oh my God.
I won the lottery. I believe, would it surprise me if Bogdanovich started? No, it wouldn't. But now everybody's going to get bailed out of this Skylar Mays crap. So Delon Wright, Bogdanovich, Reddish, Collins, Capella. What do I win for guessing starting lineups? Nothing? Cool.
I mean, it's no different than what we were saying before. Like I said, that Skylar Mays not somebody I'm really that into today. I was undercutting the field on him, and I was a lot higher on Bogdanovich. Now just everybody else is going to be there, which is, like you said, a little bit disappointing. What do we win? We just win playing a chalky Bogdanovich that we were going to play anyway.
We get completely shafted on Christmas.
Yeah.
God, that is so tilting. I hate it here. I hate it here, Greg.
It would have been cool if Skylar Mays was just a really chalk play that a bunch of people were playing.
Hang on. So do we galaxy brain this? And now do we play a min price Skylar Mays in the anticipation of him playing 20 minutes?
Yeah, I don't want to play Skylar Mays who's getting 20 minutes. And he's the game starts in 20. The game starts in 27 minutes. He's still going to be somewhat popular.
Yeah, I'm going to just remove the 2% that I had over on FanDuel. I'm going to remove the 6% that I had over on DK. So there's that. And now we're fixed. See, look at that. That's beautiful. Oh, everybody's going to be on Bogdanovich now here. And that's very, very sad to me. But I thought that there was a pretty good chance that he ended up starting.
By the way, he's my most rostered player on the Hawks. He was before, and he still is. This doesn't change any of my projections. This is kind of what I was anticipating was going to be the case. I just hope people still play a lot of Skylar Mays.
Hey, Merry Christmas to you too, Matt Kors. Please go away. Just go away. We're going to hide you. Goodbye. Have a great life. Let's continue on here. We've got other things to get to at the forward position. Number of different spots. For me, LeBron James is kind of your main. We talked about James Harden there. If you're not going to be playing him, I think going to LeBron James, who's just really, really performed above expectation in his, 19th year in the NBA. This is just absurd. His longevity and his ability to still be putting up massive, not just box scores, but fantasy box scores for us, for our purposes. Looking at him on Christmas Day, definitely something at 10-8 that I want to be getting to. Giannis is kind of your contrarian piece. I don't know what those minutes could look like, but I mean, if it's Giannis, he's going to be active. You got to assume he's a full go, and he's the best fantasy point per minute guy behind Jokic here on the season, 1.7 fantasy points per minute. How are you looking at the top end of forward?
Yeah. Do you have any concerns with Giannis's minutes? Because I don't really. And it seems everywhere you look, he's projected really low. And I don't really understand why. Just most sites have a really low projection on Giannis, a number that's just crazy low to me. So I like him a whole bunch as a pay-up option. I'm certainly going to be overweight to Giannis. And there's a good amount of value options here that I like on the slate. You know, we've talked about Gary Payton. We've talked about Otto Porter Jr. It's not that hard to pay up for 1 or 2 stars in a lot of lineups. And I really like getting to Harden the most, but then I have Giannis and LeBron as 1-2 for me, as 2-3.
Yeah, I think getting to Giannis, 11-4 over on DK. Again, I don't really look at him as being cost prohibitive on this slate. So I'm with you where I'm not going nuts with him. I'm a little bit over.
Sorry. Bet the unders on Skylar Mays props.
Oh, yeah, you should be slamming that right now. Let's take a look at PrizePicks too while we're at it here. I think that'll be a nice segue for everything that we're looking at there. But I want to go short that. I think you should be playing overs on Bogdanovich props too, because just seeing that he's going to get those extra couple minutes that he could from being in that starting rotation. Plus, they have the 0.5 prop you can have for LeBron James. You can have up to a $25 play over on PrizePicks. I've been playing there a lot more in case you couldn't tell. But 26.5 fantasy points for Bogdanovich for the fantasy score. It's got FanDuel scoring. Fire that up. That's definitely something that I like taking an over on. Dealer right there at 27. Might be looking at shorting that simply because he's going to have Bogdanovich in that starting lineup. Little different than having Skylar Mays in that starting lineup. Not going to be as much of a plus here for Wright. He might be the one guy who takes a little bit of a cut for me as we get closer. Not that I'm going to be getting like below the field or anything, but just not as overweight to the field as what I was. What were we talking about here? Forwards are great. I like forwards. To round out the loop on Giannis and LeBron James, I think I'm with you where, having Giannis as a guy, if you don't have any reservations and, even in 30 minutes, I just think that having the ownership discount, being 1/4 of what LeBron James is just such an advantage. I currently have 18% of Giannis. Maybe I give him a tiny little bit of a bump here extra. And LeBron, I'm at the field, 37.4%. I don't think it's too hard to be getting there on this slate here as well. Not really getting to a lot of Jason Tatum or Julius Randle. I kind of anticipated getting to a little bit more of them, but considering Giannis is lower owned than them, I'm just going to play Giannis. Is that kind of your approach too?
The other thing too is we have enough value on the slate, which is usually a huge issue on these Christmas Day slates because it's premier matchups, teams usually healthy for them, that a lot of times we're paying up for these stars, but it's super hard to fit them in. It's just not the case today. So I'm looking through my lineups now. I have 2 of LeBron, Giannis, or Harden in almost every single lineup today.
I think it's a great play. I think that's the right way to do it. stars and scrubs it up on slates where there's a lot of value. No doubt about it. Sup, Eric? Hello, everybody. How are we doing? Jordan Klein, stopping in the chat. Give Jordan Klein some love, and then give Awesemo Mike Lawrence some love here as well. Appreciate him working hard here on a Christmas day as Jordan Klein gallivants with his family. Actually, that's just fine. He can do that, I suppose. But love you too, Jordan. Let's keep it rolling here.
He's sitting in his apartment by himself.
I could totally see that, except for I know he's in Orange County, right, Jordan? Right?
He's a liar.
He's a dirty, filthy liar. Let's keep it moving. Kristaps Porzingis, you did say that you thought he was going to play. Are you getting to any then on this slate?
Yep. Not a massive amount, but I have him in.
That was such a ready to go.
I mean, I do because I
got my backpack.
It's funny because as you were saying, I'm updating my lineups right now, just making sure I don't have Skylar Mays and stuff. And then one thing I was doing though also is I am trying to make sure I have some exposure to Porzingis, and it's still a little bit risky because the matchup is crap. There's chance of blowout, and there's still, as much as I'm taking the stance that I think he's going to play, it's not like I'm saying with 100% certainty I think that Porzingis plays. He's going to be crazy low owned, though, I think, by the time the slate starts. And I do think that he's somebody worth I have him in about 10% of my lineups right now. And I do think he's a good GPP option just from the sense that there's clear upside here. And if he ends up playing, like, what's a realistic expectation for his ownership? 1-2%?
Yep, that's about right. Here's the thing. This is why I asked, because I think it's a fascinating talking point. He's the one piece that I just don't know how you would possibly be able to swap off of. If we don't have that news by the time that fourth game comes off, you're basically you're changing Porzingis into like a 3K Jazz dude, like Bogdanovich. That's who it becomes. Like, if it's the last player in your lineup, there's nowhere to go with Porzingis. You're playing like Mike Conley, or you can't get up to Gobert or Mitchell. You can't do that in a utility spot. But you can't necessarily, you're not going to have that salary left over. Like, you're basically just not playing Porzingis in that lineup's going to be dead. But if Porzingis is in, you get the 50 burger out of him. So I think 1 or 2% is probably the right expectation if we don't have that news early on.
Yeah. And by the way, something else, talking about the Daniel House news as I'm updating my lineups, I am a little bit closer to the field on Kemba Walker now, just because I had to allocate those minutes elsewhere. And it does mean that I project Kemba a little bit better. All
right. Thank you. That's kind of an important talking point of what we're doing here. I'm below the field still on both sites. Again, I'm just kind of hoping that this is the one piece that doesn't pop because, he's gone nuts the last couple of games. I'm always worried that the people are going to be firing him up in bulk. Although, I did have a nice talk with Ryan on the Slate Starter Pod for our Christmas episode, and he went on a long tangent about how people are just not reacting to box scores nearly as much. And I think that there's definitely some truth to that. More analytically approached. Hopefully we're teaching the people that, hot streaks, cold streaks, not necessarily a thing, that we need to kind of look at each player in their own situations and each slate individually and not just say, oh, he's playing well, he's playing poorly, and go from that direction. Again, Robert Williams, we'll get to it. Anything else for you? More popular forwards that you're getting to? We'll talk a little prize picks. Again, we're not going anywhere. We have half an hour. We're going to be watching that Knicks game together, chatting, hanging out. Don't go anywhere. And we'll be firing up some prize picks while we're at it. But other forwards that you're kind of getting to that are getting a little bit more attention, or guys that you're getting over the field on their current numbers, Greg?
Blake Griffin is somebody who's in some of my lineups, and I'm not comfortable with it. I'm trying to figure out what to do with his minutes also and what his rates are going to look like now that James Harden's back. But I'm getting to a little bit more Blake Griffin than I'm comfortable with. So that's something that I'm trying to tune down as I'm updating my lineups for the final Knicks news. And like I said, not anything significant, just that Daniel House being out. I am getting to a little bit more Julius Randle now as well. I think we've kind of talked about a lot of the forwards. I'm really spending up this position a lot. If I'm saving money, it's generally Otto Porter Jr., Talen Horton-Tucker, then, Cam Reddish, Bogdanovich. We talked about those guys as guards as well. But really, it's a lot of paying up for Giannis and LeBron as well.
Okay, let me finish that. That's the right way to look at this position, I think, is that we have some salary to spend. A lot of cheap guards other than James Harden, of course, and we're both absolutely obsessed with him. Highest owned player, I believe, for both of us here. Delon Wright getting a bump in minutes here as well. I think the exact opposite happened for me, where I'm getting to more right now with no Skylar Mays out there. I just think Skylar Mays takes a massive, massive backseat. Yeah, 1%.
You're getting to more of Delon Wright because
I'm getting to more right than I got before.
It didn't change anything with Delon Wright for me.
Oh, I gave him like an extra 3 minutes. I just think Skylar Mays has a large possibility of just like falling by the wayside entirely.
He started and played 9 minutes 2 games ago. So I have very low expectations for what's going to happen with Skylar Mays this game. Like I was already not super high on him.
Okay. Can we talk John Collins for 1 second? Because he's the one other piece from this early game that I think matters a lot as I'm kind of going through these Atlanta minutes. How much of him are you getting to across the industry today?
Let's see. John Collins.
He might feel like the guy that I'm the most worried about being.
I'm
like
sub 10% on him. I'm sub 10% on both sides.
Me too.
He takes
7%.
It's with Clint Capella being back. It's an issue for John Collins in terms of his rebound rate. And then also, I just don't know that he's that guy from a usage standpoint. It's not like we've seen him the last couple of games where it's like, hey, Trae Young's out. John Collins does everything for this team. He certainly gets a little bit of a boost, but it's not some situation all of a sudden where John Collins is James Harden without Kevin Durant. It's a slight boost, but I do think that Clint Capella being back hurts him quite a bit.
All right. That's a forward spot. We've got 16 minutes to go here. Everybody get your lineups in. Get some dummies in if you need. Do that right now here while we're talking a tiny bit of PrizePicks, leading you into this extra half hour. Once again, we're not going anywhere. Excited to be doing this here on Christmas with you. But if you haven't had the chance to go over to PrizePicks and play yet, they have so many different offers going for Christmas. They have the LeBron James over/under at 0.5 points. I think you might want to take the over that. That's going to be free money. I can't imagine that wouldn't end up being something to come to fruition. It would take an earthquake or something ridiculous. So definitely be playing that. But they have daily prop contests. You can play 2, 3, 4, or 5 players all in the same lineup. If you want to call it a lineup or a card or whatever you want to call it, a ticket. We have those plays. You put them together, you can win up to 10x your money. But not only that, if you play like a 5-player prop, if you get 4 of 5 right, you get 2x your money. Even 3 of 5, you're getting almost half your money back. So a little bit more beneficial than just playing, where you have to get all 5 right on a typical parlay card. So there's a massive opportunity to play using your knowledge of multiple sports as well. So not just NBA, but they have NFL stuff. Once again, NFL Live Before Lock. Check us out here later this afternoon. So many other things that they have. They have boxing, soccer is listed there, CSGO. So a lot of e-games are fired up. Plus, right now, we have a free PrizePicks NBA prop tool that you can utilize to help you cross-reference, to be able to look at the projections that we have over on Awesemo. We have Odd Shopper that you can go to, be able to see where some of the lines are set at across other books, and be able to cross-reference to help you make informed decisions over at PrizePicks. Get 1 free month of Awesemo Platinum right now as well when you sign up and make a deposit over at PrizePicks. So yeah, free month event of Awesemo Plus Platinum. They have a free prop right now for you to just kind of lock into your lineups with LeBron James. And you have the opportunity to hang out with us and maybe make some money here for this extra half hour. That sounds pretty good to me. So thank you so much to PrizePicks. We're going to get to a bunch of them here in the later half of this program. So looking forward to it. Don't go anywhere. All right, let's talk some center. I'm excited for this spot because I think that there are some make or break spots. I think on this spot, most guards, people are going to get to a lot of the Atlanta pieces. People are going to get to James Harden. We're going to want to be paying up for forward studs, but where you want to get different, Robert Williams right now is sub 20%. And I think I will have way more than that in the event that Al Horford's out. Yeah, it's a bummer now that people have seen what Robert Williams can do because similar to last year, if he plays 34 minutes, you're going to want him pretty much every single time at a 5,800 tag. Is that kind of the approach that you're still going to take, Greg?
Yeah. What are you going to do with, because I said before, I don't really have that much interest in Robert Williams if Al Horford plays. How are you going to be approaching because I assume you have him in a lot of your lineups right now as kind of a placeholder?
Yeah, he is crazy owned on FanDuel, especially. He's 5,600 power forward center. And that's really where I prioritize him the most. I'd said that the other day. And, he ended up being like 20% over there. He was still egregiously owned at 5% at a center spot. But there were a lot of centers on that slate. There aren't many centers here. So for me, 5,800, I have so many lineups that have late news, that have that are stacked towards Dallas, that are stacked towards, what that entire Porzingis situation could be. It shouldn't be too hard for me to be able to manually hit eject. I don't know if I'm going to have like 7 I find it impossible as I'm going through my lineups that I wouldn't have the ability to get on a bunch of Robert Williams no matter what here, especially because a lot of the lineup spots that are getting taken up in this early session are guard spots. So I'm not really thinking about it whatsoever. I think it should be pretty easy to navigate out of.
Okay. And do you think you're still going to have some of Robert Williams if Al Horford gets ruled out? Because I'm going to be aggressively trying to make sure that I think Al Horford probably makes sense as a pivot play. Actually, now that I'm just thinking about it out loud,
it's true.
If Al Horford ends up playing, people are still going to play a lot of Robert Williams, and people are not going to play Al Horford. So that's actually a pivot that I'm going to like quite a bit. And if that ends up happening,
I'm with you. I think that's a really sharp take. No problem getting to Al Horford in that event because, again, you want to talk about the difference between Robert Williams when he was producing like a 1.2, 1.3 fantasy point per minute clip last year as opposed to this year. The only difference is Al Horford. Al Horford just eats up those easy rebounds, does a lot of things offensively that Robert Williams can't do, takes away from some of his efficiency, and limits the minutes. So it's kind of a trifecta there where Robert Williams is a tough guy to kind of get to. Oh, God, Robert Covington in health and safety. So a lot of stuff coming up here on Sunday's slate. Be fascinating. But let's focus back here on Saturdays. Looking forward to playing a bunch of Robert Williams in the event that Al Horford's not there. And as you said, I won't have zero Robert Williams. It's not like I'm going to just say 0%. He's sub 6K and still, I think, has some decent upside. But the thing is, the field's already going to be there. So I'm definitely going to make an aggressive stand down off of 40% over on FanDuel. No doubt about it. But rest of the center position, Rudy Gobert, simply because you got to roster a center. He's 9,200. He's kind of your guy to be looking at that isn't a power forward center, just a center only there. Nicholas Claxton is an interesting talking point. We haven't seen him for just short of 10 days here. I don't know what those minutes are going to look like, but sub 15%, I'm willing to go over the field and find out. How about you?
Let's see. No, I'm not. I'm still giving Blake Griffin a lot of the minutes at center for the Nets, and it is a situation with the team now. Let's see. So the players that are available for the Nets in the front court, we have Blake Griffin, who I think is going to take up the majority of the minutes here. But don't forget also that we have James Johnson's back for the Nets. Also, he was somebody that was playing minutes before. Paul Millsap is back. There's a whole bunch of guys in the Nets front court to play minutes that were just not options before.
Okay, that's fair. Let's see. We got 9 minutes here to go. I'm just getting all my lineups here updated as well. There's a number of pieces from this Golden State team that could end up a little bit lower owned here at a center spot. You've got eligible to play Nemanja Bjelica down there at 3,700. I just don't know how you possibly get to him over, somebody like Draymond Green or these other guys that you can play at center here as well. Dwight Powell's on the cheap end here. Kevon Looney. I'm not really getting to a lot of these guys. Is there a path to some upside for them? Just, they're cheap centers and you can go elsewhere. Sure. But for me, I'm playing a lot of power forwards at the center spot. It seems like over on DK today, getting to, a little bit of Blake Griffin, not anything crazy there. Giannis, where he's center eligible, I'm just going to get to a lot of him. That's going to eat up, 20% plus of my lineups here now. So around 23%. And most of it looks to be at the center spot. Is there any other center that you really want to talk about that you're getting well over the field on?
Dwight Howard is going to be the one guy for me. It looks like he's going to be anchoring a lot of my lineups. I think there's extra opportunity for him with no Anthony Davis out there. And then also against the Nets team that with no Kevin Durant, they have less ability to play smaller lineups. So I think that we're probably going to see something like mid-20s minutes out of Dwight Howard. I expect him to start. And given that at this point in his career, is he as good of a real life player as he used to be? No, not at all. But he's still about a point per minute fantasy producer. And he's somebody that I project for 26 fantasy points today, given his price point. Particularly on FanDuel at 4,500, he's pretty appealing to me.
All right. I don't completely hate it. Let me throw out the guy that I'm the most overweight on. And you can just tell me that I'm the craziest person on planet Earth, and that's just fine. But this is the last talking point I had for the entire day. I am massively, and I mean massively, over the field on Hassan Whiteside at 3,700. This game is a 13 total, a 13-point spread here. He's 3,700. I'm going to be late stacking a lot of these games here. And I just don't see any way that if this is a blowout, that Hassan Whiteside, if he gets to 15 minutes, even 20 minutes, that he wouldn't absolutely destroy this Dallas front court. No way around it. He's a phenomenal fantasy point per minute producer, 1.25 on DK. The thing is, obviously, Rudy Gobert has been playing a lot later into some of these games, been playing like 35, 36 minutes, but like we're talking about a 5-game slate. We're talking about a center position that isn't that stacked whatsoever. Gives me another roster spot to be kind of boosted to, but I have 26% of Hassan Whiteside right now. Am I the dumbest person at 3,700 to be firing up tons of him?
I mean, I wouldn't say you're the dumbest person just for that reason. It's, it's like it's a combination of things that are mixing and swirling together.
Yeah.
I understand some of the logic for it, but I know you said you were pretty high on Jalen Brunson before. Are you going to make sure to not have Jalen Brunson in the same lineups with Whiteside?
That's a great thing. I don't really care because 7,600 for Jalen Brunson on DK. This is a DK specific kind of play for me. Again, I understand this is not going to work out well a majority of the time, but he's 2%, 3% owned here. It's a game that, obviously there could be value, there could not be value, but like for me, Hassan Whiteside, seeing a path for 20 minutes is pretty clear. They're up by 25. Jalen Brunson, yeah, he probably fails in some of these spots. That's a good point. I might have to give him a tiny bit of a decrease. You can obviously do that in Fantasy Cruncher a number of different ways, but because Jalen Brunson's 7,600, if it stays somewhat intact there, it could end up being a 15-point game and he's still out there in the fourth quarter on Christmas here. I might give him a little bit of a boost down, but Hassan Whiteside, I just think makes a lot of sense as a guy to get to that just legitimately is going to be unowned on this. Maybe I'm just trying to like one up myself from the Robert Williams call from days of yore, but like I legitimately see a path for him. And it's something talking to Ryan, who is a top 10 NBA DFS player in the world. I don't want to give away too many of his secrets, but he gives them away for free on the Slate Starter podcast. So just listen to that. He likes going overweight on some of these center plays that are high fantasy point per minute guys because they're low probability. But if you're making one lineup, 20 lineups, there's no way you land on any Hassan Whiteside. So you might as well, if you're making 150, get to a little bit.
No, I understand the logic for him as a GPP play. I still don't think he's somebody I'm going to be getting to, especially because I'm running my lineups with 4 minutes to go into lock and he's not in there right now. So maybe if there's a late swap situation or if Porzingis gets rolled out and I have to swap around lineups, then I will end up on him. But as of right now, I'm not going to be on him. I understand the logic, but I would definitely be a little hesitant to put him in lineups with Jalen Brunson.
Yeah, you're absolutely probably right about that. I'm going to have to do something to change that here later portions of the day. Plenty of time to be swapping around. We got a super chat. Hey, it's nice to get a super chat here on Christmas Sunday. Merry Christmas. Sean Raza, I have Joe Ingles in 10% of my 150 lineups on FanDuel GPP. Is Joe Ingles a tournament play, Greg?
Let's see. Do I have Joe Ingles? My gut feeling is no. He's also I don't have Joe Ingles at any. I have him in one lineup on FanDuel today. So Joe Ingles, a couple of things. Number one, he's a much less fantasy producer whenever Mike Conley and Donovan Mitchell are healthy. Number two, also, he just hasn't been very good this year relative to other years. He's getting a little up there in age. He wasn't somebody who's super athletic to begin with. So I am not going to be on Joe Ingles today. Are you?
I think if I were going to play him, I think I would rather play him over on DK. He's sub 4K. I think that can go a little bit further for you. On FanDuel, it's hard for me to just even use the roster spot on him. I'm not getting there. It doesn't look like. I'm kind of double checking everything on FanDuel as I'm finishing it up. Yep, I have 0% Joe Ingles at 4,200. I get what you're getting at there, where he can be a play creator there for that Utah team from time to time. Even in 23 minutes against Minnesota, put up 35.3. He has that kind of ability where he's going to have a larger range of outcomes than most guys who produce at a 0.73 fantasy point per minute rate. But for me, I just can't get there on this slate. I understand if you're making a bunch of lineups and you land on him, but 10% seems like a large allocation for him.
Yeah, and I have him in 1 out of 150 lineups on FanDuel.
All right. Well, we got 3 minutes to go here. I'm uploading everything. I got my DK stuff uploaded. That's ready to rock.
By the way, 3 minutes left. There's a massive amount of overlay in the $1 million tournament over on DK.
I am not going to be chasing that, Greg. I can tell you that right now.
Just letting the people know.
I got to get all my FanDuel lineups in. That is the priority for one Eric Lindquist here at the moment. I got to get a little bit more. Again, Bogdanovich isn't showing up as much on FanDuel as what I was expecting him to. I'm kind of giving him a boost just to kind of get over this 13% number, because I think you're dead on with that. That's a piece we want to be over on. I'll get to at least 20%. That seems about right here. I'm going to let that run. 2 minutes to go, and we're set. We're going to have no problem getting in there. Anything that you want the people to know here as we get out before we get to this, of course, this half hour that we have going. So we'll be able to react to a little bit of ownership here across the industry. Should be a fun time chatting a little prize picks here with you. But anything you want the people to know in the last 2 minutes before lock?
No, just stick around, guys, because we also have a not pretty big, massive injury news that's going to come out about the Boston Celtics at some point. And who knows, maybe it'll come in the next 30 minutes. So even though the next 30 minutes is going to be focused on prize picks, we're still going to be reacting to whatever ends up happening with the Boston Celtics should that news come out.
All righty. Greg, stall for me for like 30 seconds.
Yeah, sure. So one other thing, should I tell people an EMAC story?
Oh, I'm so here for EMAC stories. 2024, by the way.
All right. So EMAC 2024. So people don't know this. I really hope EMAC's in the chat. I actually met EMAC for the first time. He was in town. We went out to breakfast. Was not expecting that at all. So we go out to a diner. We order breakfast, and the bill comes, and EMAC is willing to pay for the entire thing, which he didn't have to do. That's really nice.
Beautiful.
So as a EMAC, what are you doing? And he said, I got a new job. He said, I'm a male prostitute now. I was like, wow, EMAC, I wasn't expecting that at all. And he said, yeah, it actually pays really well, and it helps him pay for his presidential campaign in 2024. So I said, that's great. You don't have to pay for my breakfast. I'm happy you're willing to. Do you mind me asking how much money you made last night? And he said $669.05. And I said, 5 cents? EMAC, who gave you a nickel? And he said, all of them.
What?
Oh my, you weren't paying attention.
I was paying attention. I'm so confused. Nickel.
Now the whole joke is ruined.
Why?
The chat got it. They're all laughing. So he made $669.05.
Mm-hmm.
This is an old street joke. And you told me to kill 30 seconds. So I just filled in the time with 30 seconds so you could upload your lineups. So the joke is he made $669.05. So I said, who paid you a nickel? And he said, all of them.
We're at the prize picks portion of the program. Very excited to be talking
Mike,
prize picks and everything.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Here I am.
All of them. Is in the one person? What? What?
Mike, is this that?
Yeah, so it's an old out with like 100,000 people last night.
Yeah, and he's got carpal tunnel now. Here's what happened. You asked me to kill 30 seconds for you. I saw EMAC was in the chat, and I just said, you know what? This will be a funny way to kill 30 seconds while you're uploading your lineups. And then you just totally missed the entire thing. It's an old street joke.
So you chose a Christmas segue of prostitution and nickels and math jokes. Okay.
I didn't have any time to think. You were just like, can you kill 30 seconds for him? Like, what can I do for 30 seconds? And then I remember, here's a joke that Norm Macdonald did on Conan O'Brien's show like 20 years ago. And I see EMAX in chat. I just put the two things together. I go, I could do this in 30 seconds. This will be a good way to segue while you open your lineups. And and then on top of that, right, we just did the sexual harassment training here. Just everything to me made sense. It seemed like a good timing.
So PrizePicks, they're a great site and you need to check them out. Not only is it a very clean, good-natured site because it's beautiful and very well put together, but you have an app that's super, super easy to use as well. Go to the Google Play Store, go to the App Store on Apple on your iPhone, check it out. So many great props to be taking advantage of, and you can be playing around the entire day today. There's NBA, there's NFL. I'll kind of give you a little preview into the NFL streets. I know Greg is somebody that on some of these shows can give you some MMA knowledge. The guy is as good as it gets in the MMA streets. Unfortunately, nothing listed for MMA today, but what there is listed right off the bat, 0.5 points for LeBron James. I had talked about it earlier. You can play up to $25. It is a free square. Done. hit the over of 0.5 points. Make that the first play of everything you do on PrizePicks here today. If you play $10, $15, $25, whatever it is, get on that LeBron James play. It's not going to get any easier than that. So click on it, add that to the card, move on with your day here. But other plays that we've got here, we have a free tool that is created for you to be able to go to PrizePicks and have profitability right off the bat using Awesemo's projections. It's a great tool. I've really enjoyed using it, incorporating it into my process here as well. Of course, we just lost all the Atlanta plays that were really standing out as strong plays here earlier, but using some of this, we got to update that thing here too, by the way. I think it's still the older one for PrizePicks for the NBA player prop tool. So we need to have that updated. I'm going to send a note to make sure that happens here, Greg. But right off the bat, is there something that catches your eye here on PrizePicks that you find to be a profitable bet here right from the get-go?
All right, so I'm pulling this open right now. And, actually, I think is a pretty good place to start. We're looking at PrizePicks. Let's look at some of just the players who are chalk in the later games. Doesn't even necessarily have to be any kind of props that we were like, other than, if the LeBron James one, obviously over 0.5 points. So we brought up that during the course of the show. They had one yesterday also. I believe it was Julius Randle over 0.5 points. They're just running these for the holidays. Gimme's over on PrizePicks. So for sure, LeBron James over 0.5 points. Pretty good chance he hits that, right? Other than Tyler Xander might take the under. Everybody else on board with the over, correct?
Yeah, Tyler Xander just loves to be contrarian on player props that are 99.999% to hit. So there you go. Thanks, Tyler, for being you. You keep being you, you special little flower. We love you. Let's see. I'm looking at some other plays here. We had alluded to all those Atlanta plays. I think you can still get to them here. 26.5 fantasy points here for Bogdanovic, FanDuel scoring. I think that seems like a decent enough spot to be going to. Let me see what I ended up with for my allocation for him, because I know it was a little bit higher. Yeah, I have him for 30 over on FanDuel. So I do like the over of 26.5 for Bogdanovic. 29.88 is my projection for him there. Makes a lot of sense that I would be taking the over there. Are you with me?
Oh, yeah, I have him for 33 fantasy points. So that's a pretty easy over for me. But if anybody wants to take props on the Atlanta Knicks game, that locks in 4 minutes on PrizePicks. So there's a little bit of time still, but not that much time. As for guys in the later games, though, we've talked about Robert Williams a whole bunch today.
Mm-hmm.
So the current projection on Robert Williams, 29 fantasy points. That's a play for me no matter what. If Al Horford is in, it's an under. If Al Horford's out, that's an over. I think that's something that I'm going to like either side of that. I'm just not sure which side yet.
Well, I'm going to let you know, I think the best Robert Williams prop to get to, based on the Al Horford news, is 9.5 rebounds. Well, we currently have right now, 9.5 rebounds for Robert Williams is way, way, way too high in the event that Horford ends up in. That's probably my favorite to get to in short. Does that sound any better? Just because the rebound rate is the massive thing that takes a huge dip in the event that Horford's in.
I'd still prefer under 29 fantasy points without
29.
Horford.
Okay.
Yeah. It's the same though, right? It's, to me, you're splitting hairs. So both of them, if you're making multiple player prop cards, do both of them.
That's fair. So he has 1 game this season, 2 games, 3 times that he's exceeded 10 rebounds with Al Horford in the lineup. That's fascinating. Only 3 times has he done it. So there's that. Again, fantasy points, I think that makes some sense as well. Looking at that number, I feel like it's kind of splitting the middle here right now at that number. You might, in the event that he ends up ruled in, I would just be smashing the over on it. So yeah, I'm with you. React to news. It's almost like something that we preach all the time in NBA DFS that kind of goes to PrizePicks here as well, to betting props. And Greg is as sharp as it comes. He gets on numbers immediately when news breaks. He's the absolute best at that.
It was a good one today. Gorgie Jang unders when Clint Capella was rolled in. And that was also early this morning. So Clint Capella was added into and nobody had picked up on this news. It was kind of like, remember you and I were doing the show and I pointed out Grayson Allen isn't going to play today, and nobody realized that Grayson Allen wasn't going to play today. We had the same thing with Clint Capella this morning. And I think part of it was because it was Christmas. So a lot of people were just not really that hip to NBA news, but Clint Capella got ruled in fairly early today. And it took books like an hour to take down any kind of Gorgie Jang props or to move the Hawks line. So stuff like Hawks plus 7.5, Gorgie Jang under 12.5 points. This is stuff that just whenever there's NBA injury news, just make it a habit. Check whatever sports books you like to place bets on.
Or you can go to PrizePicks. I was able to get some unders on Gorgie Jang immediately there too. I believe he had a 20.5 fantasy projection, took the under of that automatically. He had, I believe it was 11.5 points or 10.5 points. I can't remember. I can look at it right now here. He had 9.5 points. I still liked the under of that and ended up playing that with my LeBron James, as well as taking some under on John Collins' rebound numbers that have then since come down. He was up at 9.5, then 9. Now he's down to 8.5 and so on and so forth. It makes sense with Clint Capella there. But again, those are things that Greg taught me. Also, just, part of waking up early and being able to get into some of those plays early on, being react and hip, be more like Greg. How about that? Be more like Greg. That's the right way of saying it, right?
Yeah. And, listen to, I'm still bummed out about the EMAC joke. You weren't paying attention during it, but I
was paying attention. I just didn't get it right away. It was nothing about paying attention.
Yeah,
everybody hit that like button.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have anything else. I don't want to get mad. I just literally didn't get it at first. All of them.
Everybody's mad at you on Twitter.
Nobody's mad at me on Twitter. Nobody's mad at me on Twitter. Everybody's mad at me all the time. I don't care. It's Christmas, and I had a dude spam saying that I'm the worst host
he was
at
right.
Awesemo, and since then I've just been so sad. Now he's an absolute dimwit twat and needs to be just drop kicked in the face. But we continue on with PrizePicks, our lovely sponsor here. I'm excited to talk a little bit of Phoenix Suns. So I absolutely hate the Phoenix Suns for DFS purposes outside of Devin Booker. Not really getting to a lot of them. I think DeAndre Ayton kind of makes some sense to be getting to, but I think these second half props have become my favorite thing to be doing on PrizePicks. And I can't look at the board right now. I can't see anything that's listed, but I will say that blowouts don't like if you see a projected blowout, if there's a game script and just trust me, Phoenix or Golden State, like the spread isn't like that far away right now. Phoenix is 6-point favorites here, but I could see Phoenix putting the hammer down in a lot of instances in this game. And, again, we can talk about the perspectiveness of whatever here, but I'm just saying that these second half numbers don't change from the time the game tips off all the way until like right before the lock of it. I've played enough of these to kind of know now that you are going to be able to, if in the event that there's a 20-point blowout, by the way, Kemba off to a 3.1 assist start, this is going to be just miserable. But I'm looking at these second half numbers that could come out and just kind of wanting to react to some of the game script the way we do on other sites, other sites that we might be playing on. But have you looked at any of these second half props on PrizePicks ever? And is there something that you might be hip to doing in the event that you see like a blowout coming?
I don't usually look at the second half. Do they even have second half ones up right now?
No, they don't have them up right now, but I'm just kind of doing a perspective. Get ready for some news. Get ready to react to how the games are going here. I'm excited to see what these second half numbers look like for the Hawks game. Usually it comes out like halfway through the first quarter. They'll start posting numbers and somebody might be in foul trouble. Somebody might have other problems going on. There's other sites that we do stuff for that have the ability to react to that kind of news. And I think I've added it into my PrizePicks process, and it's been pretty good so far. Things are on the up and up over on PrizePicks. I'm enjoying it. So is that something that you've thought about doing at all?
No, because I didn't even really know they had them here. But now that you mentioned it, it is something I'll be on the lookout for. As for which ones I think here could potentially make sense, if that Jazz Dallas game, let's say Porzingis gets ruled out, the Jazz maybe they go up by like 20 or 30 points in the first half, then yeah, for sure, unders there. Maybe if there's any bench players available, take some overs there. Other than that, though, just I guess be hip to any kind of foul trouble players are in.
Yes, be very, very hip to that. Be hip to blowout possibly coming, because you can basically just short a bunch of these numbers. If you get Cameron Payne out there, you can definitely go above on Cameron Payne on certain things. Just kind of know the player, know the situation. I was able to make a lot of money just shorting Ivica Zubac the other night because Ibaka was definitely going to play more minutes and the Clippers were on their way to blowing out the Kings. It made a lot of sense. And so spots like that are things that you can kind of find some profitability. Also, I needed Zubats to play well, and I had a lineup that I needed him to keep going. So I was able to profit off of a situation where, otherwise I would have been bummed out that Zubats didn't play the second half, but you could kind of see it coming. Be hip to those kind of pieces of news. I think that that's a small edge here. Let's take a look over at this game here. It's nice to have Christmas basketball at 9:13 a.m. on the West Coast. What a beautiful world we live in here. 8-3 here, 2.5 minutes into that game here. Kemba out there getting a board right when I turn it on. I'm going to want to turn it off. He's got 5-1-1. Holy crap, we're in trouble.
He also, Julius Randle's in foul trouble.
Yeah,
he already
two
has
fouls.
two, as you call them, fouls. So he's got 2 of those. He's probably going to be heading to the bench and not play a massive amount of minutes now, I would suspect, in this game. Let's see, because I don't have the game up here. Did they leave him on the court or take him out?
They left him on the floor.
Left him on the floor for now. So let's keep an eye on that. If he comes out, that could set up an interesting talking point for us for these NBA second half lines on PrizePicks.
Mm-hmm. Julius Randle just hit a 3. Now we got a board. That's frustrating. Kemba Walker assist 5-2-1. Just absolute Kemba massive. Oh, dude, they're up 16-3. They're just going to murder the Hawks. That's where we're on pace to but I mean, here's the thing. Who from the Hawks, are they going to play in blowout run? I mean, is it going to be Lance Stevenson and this barber human being? I don't even know who that is. There's a number of these guys. That would be the ultimate tilt, is to not get 30 plus minutes of these Hawks.
Watch it be Skylar Mays. Lots of after we made fun of him all morning. Just all the. It's also, I mean, it's a 13-point game. It's a little early to say it's for sure going to be a blowout.
Yeah, no, totally. Skylar Mays blowout. EMAC, don't even put that out in the world. How dare you?
No, it's
how
what I just
dare
said.
you? Greta Thunberg. How dare you? All right. Back to PrizePicks we go. Let's take a look here at some other plays. Again, I really, really enjoy this site. You can too right now. Use promo code Awesemo. And you also have the opportunity to get 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum when you sign up over at PrizePicks right now. It's super easy. We're talking you through all the process. All you do is you click over or unders on players. You add them into the cart, and then you collect money using that player's props tool. Pretty awesome deal. No way around it. Plus, you get that free month with Awesemo using that for the promo code. Super simple. Greg, any other props that are kind of sticking out to you over on PrizePicks based on your projections?
Let's see. Let's look at some of. I was still looking at the half stats, which was thrown. I was like, oh, these numbers are really low, and it's because I'm only looking at the first half numbers. The Giannis props are, once again, we were talking about how low his projections are across DFS sites. Giannis today, game against the Boston Celtics. Jason Tatum is projected for 45.5 PrizePicks fantasy points. Giannis is projected for 48. That's crazy to me. I have Giannis projected for 10 more fantasy points than Jason Tatum. Give me the over on Giannis. It's not even to say I think the line on Tatum is wrong. It's just so low on Giannis. Yeah, it's pretty low. It's saying we think that he doesn't play a full allotment of minutes, and I'm with you. I think he plays 32 plus, and that's going to make Giannis look really good at 48, considering he's a 1.7 fantasy point per minute producer. That's just how math works. Even if I don't know nickels, I know fantasy points. So everybody, we're also 100 likes. We're just short of, 110 likes away from 1,000. All Greg and I want for Christmas is 1,000 likes on this video. That makes me feel, the warm and fuzzies here on Christmas Day. So please, if you haven't yet, hit that like button. And you're one of the 1,000 plus people that are hanging out here, chatting some PrizePicks, chatting some early NBA sweats. Please do that for us. That would be awesome. That just goes a long way for us and makes us feel properly loved here on this Christmas Saturday. But looking at this game, 16-3, they haven't come out of timeout here yet. But I'm looking at PrizePicks. I'm seeing a number of other fantasy plays. Gary Payton II, again, 26 fantasy points. I think that's about appropriate. Not looking at going nuts on that one. Blake Griffin, 27. We could see an interesting starting lineup, I suppose. I don't know what that could look like, but the Blake Griffin's an under for me.
That's an under as well. 27 seems large. So Griffin's coming off the bench, right?
No, I think he's going to start.
You think he starts? Okay.
But just keep in mind, we were talking about this before. So I do have some exposure to Blake Griffin today, just because I do think there's still upside there. But the average mean projection for him to me is below that number, because we have the Nets have guys coming back from COVID. we have Bruce Brown is coming back. James Johnson's coming back. We've got Nick Claxton healthy now. DeAndre Bembry's back. Javon Carter's back. Paul Millsap's back. There was a point in time where Blake Griffin and Nick Claxton were basically the only big men in the front court. That's just not the case anymore. James Johnson has played a significant role at times this year. Paul Millsap, in his last few games before getting placed in the health and safety protocols, he was playing some extended minutes. I think these minutes in the Nets front court are going to be spread pretty thin. So under for me on Blake Griffin.
Love that. Pretty easy. Just do what Greg says. That seems like a pretty good thing when it comes to sports betting. There's a reason he gets limited by books everywhere, because he just crushes with, I don't know, every single futures bet known to man. Also, pretty fantastic at the props department here. So shorting Blake Griffin, I'm going to add that to my PrizePicks card here as we're going too, because I have promo money to use there. Pretty excited for that. You guys should get a bunch of promo money here too by using promo code Awesemo. I already told you that though, so you know to do that. Go utilize that here now and go play this LeBron James over. It's as simple as that. Giannis 10.5 rebounds. I still like that fantasy point a little bit more here. I just really like scrolling through some of these plays here. Free throws made. Hey, it's my favorite. I've got a play actually from the free throws made department here that I think is just a little bit too high. And that is 6 free throws made for James Harden. I love James Harden today. I think we both did. And I think I'm probably over on his numbers there too. But I just don't see how James Harden goes out and immediately first game back here just is taking it to the hole in a constant, consistent way. His free throw numbers have been all over the place. And if he gets to the line 8 times, you're drawing dead. Like he's probably going to make 6 and you're in trouble. But 6 is going to be a push. And at that number, there aren't a number of times, like for me, looking at his box score, there are so many times that he's just not involved enough to like getting to the hole, taking a ton of 3-point attempts here in the absence of Kevin Durant. For me, 6 is a very, very large number here. It's pretty fair, but I always like discussing these, and this is probably my favorite one here on the board. Greg, are you interested in that at all?
By the way, have you seen the Knicks got up to a 20? They were up 19-3. It's 21-6 now. So that's that game is. I'm really interested in actually talking about some of the second half props for this Knicks game because you said that, and it's the game that's going on right now.
Yes.
But you had said that it's something you do like to look at in those second half props. At what point though, when the second half props get posted, do you assume that blowout is in play?
It depends. So, I mean, obviously you have the entire halftime period to kind of assess what the situation would be. Plus you can kind of see the movement. So PrizePicks, they're not static. Like they're in motion. So you can see the prop numbers moving to kind of react to certain pieces of news. But for me, it's normally just hammering unders on certain players that you know are like the main cogs of a team when you're up like 18, 20 points here. Like if this game is 20, 24 points here at halftime, or somebody's in foul trouble like Julius Randle, I think it just makes a lot of sense to be shorting them because you kind of get 2 outs to find a win. Like Julius Randle could pick up a quick foul and play less minutes, or you could see a blowout. And so like it tends to be pretty efficient. And, you know, if PrizePicks is watching, hello, please don't change what you're doing because I really like profiting off of it. It's been very, very fun. But I love taking unders on a lot of these studs coming into second halves where it's like, oh, he could look at not playing an entire fourth quarter. It's worked out far more times than it hasn't. So normally it gets posted about halfway through this first quarter, closer to the end of the first quarter here. It is still not posted here. So looking forward to whenever it does being able to react with you.
By the way, something else, the Hawks have cut the lead from 23-10. So not as bleak looking as when the score was 19-3. Also, since you complained about him, do you know how many fantasy points Kemba Walker has scored?
0.
He has scored 0.
Fantastic.
0.0. Yeah,
Skylar Mays out there just getting early run along with this Johnson fool. Like, why is he the first guy off the Jalen Johnson, the first guy off the bench? Just get out of here with your garbage here. Frickin' A.
Well, they did like a big change though. They took a lot of guys out because they were sucking.
Saw that. Yeah.
So
Bogdanovich went and sat down. That's sad.
Bogdanovich, Capella, Collins all came out. So they took out all their players who were decent other than Cam Reddish.
Let's jump on over to the NFL, Greg, because again, one of the fun things about playing PrizePicks is you have the ability to play multiple sports, and specifically the two major ones going on today, the NBA, the NFL. Doesn't get a lot easier or more fun than that, but pretty fun games here that we're looking at on the board for this evening. I'm excited to be talking live before lock with you guys, so make sure that you guys stick around this afternoon. Go spend time with your family here now. In the next hour and a half, 2 hours before we come back here for NFL news. So looking forward to that. But we've got Cleveland and Green Bay. We've got Indianapolis and Arizona. Looking at the board here for a number of those, I like looking at the receiving touchdowns and the pass touchdowns right off the bat. Looks like the only ones, the pass touchdowns, Kyler Murray 1.5. We can kind of cross-reference our projections. That seems a little bit high to me. 1.5 here going up against Indianapolis. Obviously, a lot of ground game, a lot of complementary pieces, whether it's Chase Edmonds, whether it's, looking at Kyler Murray's own rushing upside, and of course, James Conner at the goal line. I think I might be looking at shorting 1.5 passing touchdowns. So I like that one. Anything for the NFL streets that stands out to you, Greg?
Carson Wentz has an over-under passing yards of 199.5, and that is a really low number. And I also don't agree with the spread for this game. I think the Arizona Cardinals have been one of the better teams in the NFL, and just because we've seen some massive overreaction. Same thing happened the other day, like the Titans 49ers game. The Titans ended up being 3-point underdogs at home against the 49ers, which I thought was pretty crazy. And I feel the exact same way with the spread for the Cardinals Colts game. With that in mind, I think the Colts are going to have to be throwing the ball a little bit today. 199.5 passing yards for once. That's a really low number. I like the over.
I love that. Now, see, this is why we have Greg Ehrenberg on these shows, because that's some knowledge right off the bat. I'm clicking on that. I'm adding that to my card as well here. NBA and NFL together, it doesn't get a whole lot better than that. I love PrizePicks. This has been a very, very fun site, especially if you're in a state like California here for me, or other states where you don't necessarily have the books to kind of lean on. You don't have early access to be able to get in on lines. This is where I'm able to play my props. This is the site where I'm able to really profit off of Awesemo's projections, off of my own stuff that I'm doing behind the scenes, and being able to make money. I love it. It's really fun. I know you will too. Let's keep rolling. Back to the NBA streets here to kind of round it out. And right now, Kemba Walker, 5-4-3. I'm in a lot of trouble.
Triple double coming.
I see this on DK, and I feel gross. Here's the thing. I played him 100% on Yahoo. So $14, that was a lock. So at least I have those kind of outs. I'm a tiny bit under on FanDuel, so nothing like super extreme. Plus Delon Wright, who he's, I believe, my highest owned player from this game entirely. Let me double check over on FanDuel. 56% of him. Yes, he is. He's got a massive 16.4 start. So Delon Wright faders, repent now. I'm waiting for these second half props though, but definitely the blowout theory. Not looking as good here at the moment.
I mean, it's a 10-point game in the first quarter. I mean, how many?
I'm just saying, I wanted to tilt. I was here to tilt. I was here to fire off some stuff. I know you like it.
You know what I really look forward to that people don't get, to see from Eric, is as soon as we finish the show, sometimes Eric and I hang out and Zoom and watch games together. If not, he's in the group chat just melting down that we have the entire night.
I literally love tilting. Here's the thing though. It's fun. It's like a pastime for me. It's like, I have the ability to just kind of like take out all my frustration, because it wasn't because I made bad lineups. It was never because of that. It was always
never.
My players got hurt. My players picked up a second stupid foul, and it never happens to other people. It only happens to me.
Yeah, for sure. There's nobody else who's ever had. Here's what I focus on in DFS and betting. I don't care about the bad beats. I savor the bad wins, the ones that I know I'm not supposed to win, and yes. I do. I'm like, oh, that one, because that's really what puts you in a good mindset, is not to look at all the things you missed out on, because everybody thinks that they've been done wrong, but nobody thinks about all the times they've done right, because there's really a 50-50. As sometimes it goes in your favor, sometimes it doesn't. And think about the times that the star player got hurt. You just happen to have somebody else on their team in your lineup. He goes and scores a bunch of points. Those are the ones to focus on.
Morgan Smith just said, Delon Wright, over points on PrizePicks already hit. That's a fun day to hit that, 10 minutes into the first quarter. I can tell you one thing. He fell 0.5 short the day that I needed him to go over. You might have seen me tilt that one.
You better believe I did.
Oh, my God. he had 9 points like the entire. So he had like 2 at halftime, and then he got like 6 or 7 quick ones or whatever, and it was like 9.5 was the line, and it was 0.5, and he was in every single play that I had. And then I can't even. Gorgie Jang was just a disaster that day too. It was such a smash. It was such a smash.
But the stat keeper in New York, this guy's going crazy, handing out the steals here. He's giving guys on Hawks steals, taking them away, giving them to other players. We've seen already in this first quarter, Cam Reddish go from 0 steals to 2 steals to 1 steal without even being on the court. It's crazy, these stat corrections.
Yeah, let's tilt.
Yeah.
Team tilt. Let's go. Bogdanovich back in the game here for Cam Reddish. Please go do things, Bogdanovich. Go live your life.
Things.
Yeah, we need some Bogdanovich things, and you guys need some PrizePicks things. So once again, use that promo code, get that free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum while you're at it. See what we have behind the paywall. I think you'll like it. The water's warm here. We have NFL, NBA here on this Saturday. We'll have NFL and NBA tomorrow on Sunday. It's going to be an awesome weekend of sports. And right now, by using that promo code Awesemo, you have the ability to get all of it for free for 1 month. So come check it out. We're going to kind of be rounding out this show here, watching the end of this first quarter together. 27-16 here. We've got Taj Gibson, of course, playing minutes because, that's what Tibbs does. Julius Randle, since getting 2 fouls, now has 9 and 5, along with, I believe he had a steal there earlier, but it's gotten a little, no steal, but 9 points and 5 rebounds. That's running pretty good if you roster Julius Randle, that a coach, like Thibodeau would actually let Julius Randle keep playing.
Love it. I love it.
Yep.
Coaches do not do that often enough. Still kind of a crappy game for fantasy, given what his price point is right now, but whatever.
Yeah, given his price point, but again, 9 and 5, that's an excellent start because you get the double bonus on DK. You have the backdoor to actually getting fantasy points. Whereas, most coaches, 2 quick fouls for anybody. They're sitting down until halfway through the second quarter. Kind of nice to see a coach do that correctly, even if it is to Tom Thibodeau. Tom Thibodeau, though, has always been fantasy friendly. He just throws his players out there to play eternal amount of minutes. It's usually a beautiful thing. Been a little bit wonky this season, but it's been wonky for everybody there. RJ Barrett coming back in the game. Hopefully he doesn't do anything crazier here. He's got 10.7, 5 points, 1 assist, 1 rebound, 1 block getting going here. I have literally 0 in 150 lineups on FanDuel. So there's that. Yikes. Greg, we are, though, at 12:30 p.m. Eastern time there, 9:30 a.m. out here on the West Coast. That concludes the PrizePicks show. That concludes NBA Live Before Lock. Any final words for the people?
Emac, put some Bengay on your wrists.
Jeez. Nickels on Christmas, baby. Hey, Merry Christmas, everybody. We appreciate you hanging out with us. Appreciate Mike Awesemo, Lawrence over there, taking care of us here, producing. Appreciate all of you guys in the chat. Hit the like button on the way out. Merriest of Christmases. Be with your family. Be happy. We'll see you soon.